Hello, everyone. My name is Peter Lee. I'm in Managing Director of the Goyang Convention and Visitors Bureau. Welcome to Asia Destination Roundtable. 안녕하십니까? 저는 고양 컨벤션 뷰로 이상열 사무국장입니다. 고양 데스티네이션 위크의 일환으로 개최되는 아시아 데스티네이션 라운드테이블에 참석해 주신 참가자 여러분께 감사의 말씀을 전하겠습니다. 아시아 데스티네이션 라운드테이블은 아시아 지역 CBB, DMO들의 네트워킹의 장입니다. 아시아 지역 CBB들이 라운드테이블에 함께 모여서 서로 정보를 공유하고 현안을 논의했던 그런 장이고 앞으로도 그렇게 될 그런 장소가 되겠습니다. 팬데믹으로 인해서 저희가 라운드테이블에 함께 모여서 앉아서 그렇게 현안을 논의할 수는 없지만 버추얼상으로 이렇게 ADRT의 의미를 살릴 수 있게 된 것에 대해서 감사하게 생각하고 또 기쁘게 생각합니다. 지난 4년간 저희 ADRT를 함께 만들어가고 그리고 또 주최해 주신 이카 아시아 패시픽 챕터 그리고 새로 오신 우리 리저널 디렉터에게 감사의 말씀을 전하고 고양 컨벤션 뷰로의 가장 강력한 후원자인 게이닝 엣지에게도 감사의 말씀을 드립니다. Especially thank you to Gary and Jane. 진심으로 감사합니다. 저의 인사 말씀은 이렇게 대신하고요. 그리고 오늘 하루를 위해서 정말 헌신해 주실 분이신데요. 말씀드렸듯이 고양 컨벤션 뷰로의 가장 큰 강력한 후원자이시면서 또 지지자이시기도 합니다. 오늘의 모더레이터십니다. 게리 그리머 게이닝 엣지의 체어맨을 소개해 드리도록 하겠습니다. Hello, Gary.
Hi, Peter. Good to see you. Your techies have to activate my video. I can't do it from here. They have to activate it. There you go. Sorry for that delay. Good to be with you, Peter. It's good to see you. You're looking happy and healthy, and hopefully everybody in the audience is as well. Glad to be here. I think we're going to have an exciting day. But before we get going, I just wanted to share, as you did, Peter, that ICA has been very supportive, and we've got a couple of congratulatory messages from both the ICA president as well as the chairman of the Asia Pacific chapter. So with that, we can roll a couple of welcome videos.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Gary.
Greetings. My name is Senthil Gopinath, the Chief Executive of International Congress and Conventions Association, ICA. On behalf of ICA, I would like to extend my heartiest congratulations to our ICA member, Goyang Convention and Visitor Bureau, on celebrating the 5th anniversary of Goyang Destination Week this year. ICA is proud to be involved in this prestigious event, which serves as a platform for event professionals to educate, network, and learn about global megatrends in destination marketing. Goyang has impressed me not only as a beautiful city full of culture and history, but also as a thriving modern city. Goyang is one of the largest cities in Seoul capital area and home to Kintex, the largest conventions and exhibition venue in Korea. Now it has become a hub for MICE industry, bringing together the brightest minds in destination marketing. On this auspicious occasion, I hope all participants will have a fruitful time in this exciting knowledge sharing session and find new opportunities and innovations at the Asia Destination Roundtable discussion. Once again, congratulations on achieving this milestone, and we wish you all the best from all of us at ICA. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ashwin Gunasekaran, Chair of the ICA Asia Pacific Chapter and CEO of Penang Convention and Exhibition Bureau. To our dear ICA colleague, Goyang Convention and Visitors Bureau, I'm excited to congratulate you on celebrating the 5th anniversary of Goyang Destination Week. I would also like to personally congratulate my dear friend, Mr. Peter Lee, the Managing Director of Goyang Convention and Visitors Bureau, and Mayor Jae Jun Lee of Goyang City and current chairman of Goyang CVB for their amazing leadership and contribution in building the business events industry through the Bureau. The outbreak of COVID-19 required our industry to rapidly adapt to new learnings. We believe destinations around the globe are engaging, inspiring, and enabling the transition to move sustainable and innovative events. At the same time, innovating more sustainable cities. The key to continuously growing together as an industry and further inspiring others to do so is through smart collaboration. Be it with partners or with government, it is most important to work hand in hand to come up with new ideas and initiatives that will benefit not only the city itself, but also the global industry. As one of the leading MICE events in the region, I have no doubt that you will provide a top-notch education forum that will be beneficial to all participants attending. I wish you all a successful event. Thank you.
Hey, thank you to our friends from ICA and for their support of this forum. Again, as I mentioned, we're planning what we think will be a very interesting forum. We're looking forward to hearing from you in the audience, as well as from some great speakers who I'm about to introduce. But we will be talking about a few things. We'll talk a little bit about destinations and legacy. We'll talk a bit about how you can take a destination and through strong strategic approaches, turn it into one of Asia's leading destinations. And we'll also be doing a lot of work on branding. First, we'll have one of our presenters talk a bit about their own exercise in branding. And then we'll be having an afternoon workshop where we're hoping that we can help everyone think more successfully, be more successful in terms of developing their own brand communication strategies. Without any further delay, I want to introduce our first speaker, who is Amelia Binti Rosamond. She is the Chief Executive Officer of the Sarawak Business Events. She has 13 years of experience in branding, marketing, and public relations. And she's a big part of why Sarawak has won 15 awards in creative marketing campaigns. So without further ado, welcome to Amelia.
Well, thank you, Gary. Thank you, Gary. Good morning, everyone. And I will share my slide now. All right, I hope everybody can see the slide. And ooh-ha, everyone. It is good to be back in Goyang again. And I feel so privileged to be able to share my stories together with so many amazing speakers and audiences. So, as we face these uncertainties and the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic together, I must say that Sarawak, we had to persevere through the challenges and leverage on the new opportunities to keep our destinations relevant. This is why we launched our bold and innovative campaign, Tribe Legacy Sarawak. And this campaign is our baby that was launched in 2020, where the focus was initially geared towards the risk mitigation and recovery of Sarawak's business events industry. At its heart, the Tribe Legacy Sarawak campaign basically functioned as our platform to push forth progressive ideologies and keep our industry players connected under the collective banner of the hashtag Tribe Spirit. It all began with Sarawak journey in hosting the 55th ICA Congress 2016. It was then that we started to advocate legacy impact to our governments, association, industry players, and other key stakeholders. We commenced the hosting convention in Sarawak Study in 2019 and consolidated the result in 2020, upon which we began actively spearheading the legacy impact movement. It had been an exciting journey, and in 2020, I'm proud to say that our hard work has paid off. The Sarawak government has included business events and legacy impact in the Sarawak Economic Action Council, now known as Post-COVID Development Strategy under tourism industry, as one of the focus areas in the 2030 aspiration. So let me show you a short video of our Tribe Legacy Sarawak campaign initiative to give you the idea on how we have progressed. And now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to stop sharing my slide. And Secretariat, please share the video. Thank you.
Really destination for business event.
I'm so glad today's session is providing all the incentive for the local businesses like us.
Tribe Digital Campus, the latest edition for capacity building, business lead generation.
It will also help you understand the business model of business events and promote professionalism among the industry.
This would indeed help the industry as a whole to maintain our clientele.
So what makes Sarawak as the business event destination now? It's you, it's me, it's us and our people. This is what Sarawak is made for, its people.
All right, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the video. Well, these are the summary. These are the summaries of the initiatives that we have come up with under the Tribe Legacy Sarawak campaign. As you can see that the initiatives all have a strong focus on our industry partners, while also taking into account our destination branding strategies for international and national market. Through business events, legacy impact initiatives, in short, we call it Best Legacy Initiative, we are positioning Sarawak not just as a destination that will ensure the success of the planners' events, but also the fact that we are working towards defining a higher business purpose. So we are making a bold and unique proposition to our planners that hosting business event in Sarawak can generate long-lasting positive changes and ultimately leave behind legacies. Together, we can make their organization, their sector great while making Sarawak and ultimately the world a better place. So we have produced the Best Legacy Initiative Guideline to assist the planners on how to leverage this movement in their events, as well as a legacy clinic and support center to assist the business event planner. And from this slide, you can see the pathway of legacy is started during the big stage. However, ideally, it could start from the research stage until post-event. Template is included in the guideline measure the legacy that will be divided into 5 pillars. The first pillar is sectoral, community and social, trade and investment, economic, environment, and political. This pillar then will be aligned with, first, Sarawak government 7 key focus areas, which are urban development, followed by social development, environmental, rural transformation on agriculture development, re-engineering economic growth, service industry, and digital economy. And the second alignment is the 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. We have not launched Best Legacy Initiative officially yet. However, the implementation has started early this year. So the Best Legacy Initiative is basically us responding to the needs and opportunities of our business event industry. In order to position Sarawak as a choice business events destination for national and international market, we believe that the brand story must start at the very beginning. This is why we emphasize on best legacy and business events education awareness for governments, academia, industry partners, associations, and the general public. Session will commence in early August, and this year, and we hope that this will help to forge stronger collaboration in order to maintain government backing. Also, we considered it's crucial to connect with all of our key stakeholders, develop a sound understanding of what we do and the importance of social development and inclusivity in business event. So all in all, the marriage of our existing tribe, persona, and legacy impact motion in conceiving the Tribe Legacy Sarawak campaign is to motivate Sarawakians during this challenging time. It is also to reinvent Sarawak business events industry landscape from a tourism focus to one that also advocates both economic and social value while promoting everything that sets our destination apart. This way, we hope to achieve the economic and legacy aspirations of a developed second-tier destination by 2030. So these are the mantra of the Tribe Legacy Sarawak campaign: motivate, reinvent, and differentiate. With this, I would like to share with you our award-winning The New Normal Business Events video under our Tribe Legacy Sarawak campaign. This video to be played at the business events venue before any type of events commence. Again, I'm going to stop sharing now. And Secretariat, please share the video. Thank you. The sound, please. We can't hear the sound.
You think we are savages? Yes, we are. But that was 100 years ago.
36.5
Should we try to replay the video again?
Five. Okay. Pass.
The land of hornbills and giant flowers, where people smile a lot and everyone's your friend, even the headhunters. Welcome to Sarawak's new normal.
Sir, your temperature is fine, but you can't go in like this.
What? Why not?
You'll need to have a mask on before entering.
Huh?
Follow me.
The essentials, you already know this. Wear a face mask at all times. Sneeze into a flex elbow or tissue. Dispose tissues and face masks into a designated bin. Wash your hands with soap for 20 seconds. Here's a trick you can use.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
Follow the new normal. Download contact tracing apps and scan the QR code before entering premises. Go through temperature screening. Practice physical distancing, and it's 1 meter, so remember, not so close. Use alcohol-based hand sanitizer.
You, sir, may now enter.
Learn and be inspired. Remember to wear your face mask throughout the event. Now, explore and be excited. Greet the Malaysian way. Sarawak is known for its undeniably good food, but there is a lot more.
All right. Thank you so much. I will end the video here, and I will stop sharing now. Okay, what I'm gonna do is that, for a full experience of enjoying the videos, the 2 videos that we showed earlier, we will share the YouTube link in the chat box. So make sure you check out our video from the chat box. Okay, and well, anyway, enjoy the video, and I hope that my presentation has been will be beneficial for all of you. That's all from me. Once again, I would like to thank Gary, Peter, and the Goyang Organizing Committee for giving me this prestigious opportunity to be here again. And mostly importantly, thank you for tuning in. That's all from me. Over to you, Gary.
Okay, Amelia, thank you for that. I should mention that the video that Amelia just showed won an honorable mention at the Los Angeles Film Awards, so it's getting a bit of international attention. So thank you very much for that. Our next speaker is Lance Ferguson, who's with the Kobe Convention Bureau. Lance is an Australian who spent the last 10 years living and working in Japan. In 2017, he joined the Kobe Convention Bureau, and he's working mostly in the area of bidding, but also in terms of brand development and marketing. So Lance is going to share with you his experience in Kobe as far as developing a new brand. Take it away, Lance.
Hello, everyone. So I think I need the techies over there to, is my video working? Can everyone see my video? So yeah, thank you very much for the introduction, Gary, and thank you very much to the Guideline Convention Bureau for having me and having me speak here today. So yeah, today I'm going to go over and talk about Kobe and how we recently went through a rebranding process, and hopefully I'll be able to give you some ideas on how that went. So what I'm going to talk about, the main bulk of my presentation today, so I'll give you a little bit of a brief idea about Kobe and where we stand within the mice industry, and then I'll talk about why we rebranded, the reasons we decided to rebrand, the brand development process that we went through, what worked for us, what were some of the challenges that we faced, and then finally brand dissemination, so getting, communicating our brand, getting our brand message out there into the public, into the mice industry. So first of all, Kobe is located next to Osaka and Kyoto in the Kansai region. This is sort of the traditional and cultural heart of Japan and the largest urban area outside of Tokyo. Kobe has a population of about 1.5 million, making it the seventh largest city in Japan. With mountains hanging over the city on one side and the ocean on the other, many people consider Kobe's biggest asset the fact that it is a relatively large and populous city, but it's also surrounded by nature on all sides. So the development of Kobe took off with the opening of the port to international trade in the late 19th century, which has produced an open-minded and multicultural population and strong industries. This narrative is the base that we use to develop our brand. And to give you a brief idea of where Kobe sits within the mice industry, Kobe ranked 82nd on the ICA ranking for 2019 with 35 international meetings. Domestically, here in Japan, Kobe has generally performed well. We have been gaining momentum over the last few years in particular, ranking second behind Tokyo 3 years running for the number of international meetings held in Japan, held in a Japanese city, according to the Japanese National Tourism Organization's ranking system. In recent years, Kobe has hosted a large number of international meetings in fields of interest to the Kobe city government. And this has demonstrated to the city government that the mice industry is of great value and is contributing to the growth and reputation of the city. So yeah, now I'll talk about why we decided to rebrand. One of the main reasons we rebranded was that we feel Kobe has a lot to offer mice delegates, but that it's a bit of an untapped destination, as it possesses many of the ingredients meeting planners look for in a conference destination: a strong academic community and industry, good international access and conference facilities, and on top of being a historically and culturally rich city, it is a physically attractive destination located close to some of Japan's most iconic cities and attractions. Despite all of this, Kobe does not have an established identity in the mice industry outside of Japan. And this is something I really noticed going to trade shows overseas and talking with people. A lot of people don't know about Kobe. They might have heard of Kobe beef. So the trigger for the Convention Bureau to start to think about branding started in 2013, when Kobe was selected by the Japanese National Tourism Agency as a global MICE city. The Global MICE City project was started in 2013, and selected cities in Japan that have demonstrated the potential or the ability to compete for MICE events on a global scale. The selected cities received consulting, training, and were evaluated by a consulting agency, which in this case was Gaining Edge. It was at this time, through the training we received, that the CVB really started to take shape. By that I mean we recognised the need to retain Bureau staff long term in order to create MICE professionals, which in turn allowed us to engage more with the industry and our colleagues around the world. And that was really thanks to the training received from Gaining Edge. During this training period, which lasted from about 2014 to 2017, one thing that was consistently brought up and driven into us was the need to create a consistent message and build an identity as a MICE city. In response to this, the CVB developed a 5-year plan beginning in 2016 to rebrand Kobe MICE. This entailed analysing Kobe's strengths and creating a new website and promotional materials, which we did incrementally over a number of years. However, in 2020, the global pandemic saw the MICE industry change, and consequently, so did our priorities. After re-evaluating our goals for the Kobe MICE brand, we started out earnestly on the branding process in 2020, including the development of a new logo and PR materials to create a face for Kobe MICE. And finally, on why we rebranded, in 2021 was the 40th anniversary of the establishment of the Kobe Convention Centre, which I'll admit was a bit of a coincidence, a happy coincidence, but nonetheless, it gave us an extra reason, to secure the budget needed for the rebranding process, and really sort of added an extra bit of oomph and conviction to us when explaining why we needed to rebrand to Kobe City Government. So yeah, brand development. I'll talk now about the process that we went through in sort of the beginnings, and then sort of establishing our brand and finally creating the logo and things like that. So one of the first things we did was decide to work with a consulting firm to help us develop our new brand identity. So I'll just go over some of the reasons we chose the firm that we did. One of the big reasons was familiarity. We had worked with this firm before on a past project, and that familiarity meant we had some shared knowledge and that they also had a reasonable understanding of the MICE industry. Another reason is that they specialised in branding and marketing. What this meant for us at the CVB was that they had the ability to not only present their own ideas, but also take our ideas and interpret and refine them. I think our logo and tagline, which I'll talk about later on, are a good example of how the consulting firm was able to sort of refine an idea into something simple and memorable and marketable. So another benefit of working with a consulting firm is that they possess a network of creative people and companies that are going to be necessary to develop a brand, such as designers, copywriters, printing companies, photographers, and videographers. Also important to us was that they were locally based. So being locally based, the knowledge they had about Kobe allowed them to bring in new ideas and a fresh perspective about Kobe from outside of the MICE industry. Also being locally based, it was easy to meet face-to-face on a regular basis, which was extremely important to us and ended up being critical, I think. So yeah, working with a consulting agency and going through the process of really, building a brand from nothing. So working with a consultancy firm that had prior experience building brands and marketing helped us to structure the branding process, as they had a proven formula and process for brand development. In the beginning, we held a workshop where we established our vision for Kobe MICE and our mission, which comprised a set of long and short-term goals that we needed to achieve in order to realise the vision. This process also involved defining the main challenges we faced in fulfilling the mission. Going through this process allowed us to see more clearly the strengths and core value points of Kobe that differentiate us from the surrounding cities. We also took the time to identify our weaknesses as a MICE city in relation to our competitors. Something you are not going to sort of share outside of immediate bureau staff, but I think it's still valuable and an important part of the process, as it really helped us to recognize what our strengths are. When examining our strengths and points of differentiation, as well as Kobe's weaknesses, we split them into two categories, the strengths and weaknesses of the city and the strengths and weaknesses of the Convention Bureau. It was this process early on in the development phase of our brand that helped prevent us from going off on tangents and allowed us to hone in on our strengths and brand direction. Obviously, working with a consultant agency over such a long period of time, there is of course going to be some challenges involved with that. So in our experience, there was two major challenges that we faced sort of almost on a day-to-day basis working with a consulting firm. As we all know, the MICE industry and its target audience is very different from the regular tourism industry. It was the Bureau's job to sort of teach the consultancy firm about the MICE industry. Although they did a lot of their own research about MICE, as MICE specialists, it was the CVB's job to provide them with industry insight and keep things focused on MICE. You know, I think this is a given. It's always going to be the CVB's job to do this, but it was sort of a challenge for us nonetheless, and quite time consuming. And while I did just say that the consulting agency's network of collaborators was an advantage, and I ultimately believe that to be true, it was the root of some difficulties, as at certain times we were communicating with 3 to 4 people from different companies, which did lead to some misinterpretation and misunderstandings along the way. Making sure that everyone involved in the process was on the same page was time consuming and frustrating at times for us. So yeah, identifying our key strengths. So this is probably one of the most core parts of our brand development process. So when identifying Kobe's key strengths, we knew we needed to stick to Kobe's historical narrative, as we wanted a message and story based in reality, and that the city government, citizens of Kobe, and our local partners could identify with and get behind. We also knew that we had to focus on the things that differentiate Kobe from other MICE cities in Japan, especially Kyoto and Osaka, which, located just down the road from Kobe, are the cities we compete with most for MICE business. Kyoto is the quintessential Japan destination, teeming with tradition, and that old world Japan experience is unmistakable worldwide appeal and is immensely popular. Osaka, our other main competitor for MICE business, is the second largest city in Japan, has great international access through the Kansai airport and numerous international hotels and MICE facilities. Outside of Tokyo, Kyoto and Osaka are the most recognizable and popular destinations in Japan. So taking all of this into account, we identified the 4 key strengths of Kobe that we felt were true to the city's narrative and also unique enough to help us stand out from our competitors. Simply put, the strengths we identified were Kobe's history as one of Japan's foremost and first international trading ports, and how this became the catalyst for forward thinking and policy making in the welfare and disaster prevention fields. Kobe's advanced medical R&D facilities that make up one of Asia's largest biomedical clusters, and its willingness to explore the new and innovative that in recent years can be seen through the growth of new and emerging industries in Kobe, such as clean energy, IT and tech startups that are contributing to the SDGs. So yeah, creating our brand identity. So this structured brand development process that began with us setting our goals and a vision, identifying a narrative and our key strengths, started to create a picture in our minds and push us in the direction that led us to come up with the logo and taglines you see here. In summary, that narrative was, Kobe has been a major shipping hub since the 9th century and has embraced a variety of cultures from around the world. It is this history and culture of open-mindedness that has allowed Kobe to stay ahead of the curve, producing visionaries and attracting innovators from around the world, people that can be referred to as change makers. Today, Kobe is home to some of the world's leading research and development centers and international organizations, offering a wide range of opportunities for people, business, and the development of cutting-edge technology. Change makers here in Kobe and from all over the world will meet and innovate in the city and take their ideas out into the world. And this is how we settled on Kobe for Change Makers as our main brand message, and where change lives and drives the future forward as our secondary tagline. which is really there just to give a bit more context to the main tagline, Kobe for Change Makers. So the logo design represents the Rocco mountain range and the Seto inland sea that surrounds Kobe. While the logo is representative of Kobe's sort of natural assets, it is also a metaphor for the waves of innovation and change that are taking place in Kobe and rippling out into the world. We also took the time to choose a key color and fonts that we think look nice, but also back up the narrative. The blue is representative of the ocean, but it also has a hint of purple as well, which we feel adds a bit of flair. We did this as within Japan, Kobe has always been associated with fashion and high-end European elegance. The font, which is a take on Art Deco, was also chosen to represent this line of thinking and add a little bit of playfulness. While these details are not things we lead with or even talk about with clients, I believe they are important as the details help bring the story and brand to life, especially for us at the CVB. Another big part of the process and consolidating the brand and creating this face was through the creation of promotional materials. So we recreated our meeting planners guide, we redesigned our website, we created a number of posters, and we also created, we already had some promotional videos that we just created for the Bureau and for Mice in Kobe that we re-edited them to create two short promotional videos, one 15 seconds and one 30 seconds long. And these are great, especially now during this hybrid area of meetings. You can sort of play them in between sessions and things like that. So they've been a great tool to help get the brand out there. And again, giveaway materials. Everyone who's done a trade show will know how important these things are. So we've redesigned and recreated all our giveaway materials: Congress bags, files, envelopes, our business cards, pens, sticky notes. We've even created a PowerPoint slide template and things like that. So we have all the tools we need to get the brand message out there. So now I'll talk about brand dissemination and brand communication. So one of the most important part of the brand dissemination process for us was internal marketing. The Kobe Convention Bureau staff and all those working within MICE in Kobe are ultimately your brand ambassadors. These are the people who are out there interacting with customers and potential clients. So it is essential that they have a good understanding of the brand and story and message you're trying to convey. We went about building internal understanding initially amongst Convention Bureau staff and city officials through workshops, presentations, discussions, Q&As, and the creation of a brand guideline. The brand guideline in particular is important as a reference point that staff can go back to at any time. It covers the vision, goals, challenges. It defines colors that can be used in conjunction with the logo, fonts, font to logo ratios, acceptable and unacceptable logo layouts, etc. While all of this is time consuming and not as glamorous as marketing campaigns, it is crucial in that it will help everyone deliver a consistent message. I also felt that the shared understanding of the brand and new goals provided us with a renewed sense of motivation, which was important to have over the last year and a half, with COVID casting a shadow over the industry. Building a brand guideline and a solid understanding of the brand within all staff members will also future-proof you to some extent, especially for a convention bureau like us, who are a division within a larger organization where staff can be rotated in and out every few years. Having that base of knowledge and the materials to back it up means future staff can come in and get up to speed on the brand message. As a convention bureau creating a MICE brand for the city, communicating the brand to local hotels, MICE facilities, and partner companies was also an important step in building that base of understanding and getting all the MICE players in Kobe on the same page. Like we did with the bureau staff, we discussed our goals with the brand, the ultimate vision, challenges, and in general, the Kobe MICE story we had created. Put simply, our goal here is to equip everyone involved in MICE in Kobe with the knowledge and the tools to sell Kobe as a MICE destination. So yeah, brand dissemination on a domestic level. So I'm talking about communicating the brand within Japan and marketing the brand within Japan. So at the heart of Kobe MICE is the Kobe Convention Center, which, as you would expect, gets the highest number of MICE-related traffic in the city. It also happens to be located between the city center and Kobe Airport. So what we have done to raise awareness of the brand within Kobe is to put posters and banners up at these key locations. The train station in the city centre, which is the busiest in the city, the convention centre station, inside the trains themselves, and the airport. The centrepiece of which is the display you can see in the centre slide here that sits at the entrance to the conference centre. So this strategic placement of the brand throughout the city creates a welcome message to those coming to Kobe for a MICE event, but it also exposes the brand to a large amount of people who are not associated with MICE, which we have seen through people's social media posts reacting to the logo. We were able to achieve this by working with the railway company that operates the train that runs between the city and the airport, who are a member of the Bureau's Meet in Kobe MICE partner network. We also reached out to many of our other local partners who are involved in our Meet in Kobe partner network, such as hotels, businesses, restaurants, and also the city government to help us get the brand out there. We provided them with posters and videos to display in locations throughout the city. We also engaged domestic media outlets, specifically local newspapers and MICE media, and were successful in getting a number of newspapers to write articles about the rebrand. Our media exposure is something that scored points with the city government and also exposes Kobe City to people in all walks of life, which is great as it contributes to our overarching goal to raise the profile of Kobe as a MICE city. We're also doing more traditional door-to-door promotion, which involves going to universities in the area, travel agents to talk about Kobe MICE, armed with our new branding materials. So on the international side of things, so this is something we're kind of struggling with at the moment. So getting the brand out into the international market is something that we're kind of grappling with. COVID has put the brakes on a lot of our plans with regards to international marketing. So we are taking the time at the moment to examine the options we have and look at the best ways to reach our intended international target audience. What we have been doing and are currently doing is sending out a monthly online subscription-based newsletter. This is sent out to people we have had direct contact with in the past and consists of over 1,000 subscribers. This is a simple tool that's free that anyone can do, and it's quite effective. We're also hosting a number of online seminars coming up next month, and this is in the build up to exhibiting at online trade shows, where again we're going to be talking about the brand and what Kobe has to offer MICE delegates and organisers. And we're doing these things because we can't sort of travel overseas at the moment for obvious reasons due to COVID. And again, just quickly going back to the newsletter, this really helped us sort of engage with the international MICE media and get some stories published here and there. But like I said, with regards to communicating the brand internationally and getting it out there, we are still in the process of identifying the best places to advertise that will sort of directly reach our meeting and event organisers. And yeah, thank you very much. That's it from me. Thank you all for listening. I realise that there is no correct way to develop a brand, but I hope that by sharing what worked for us has given those thinking about rebranding an idea of what it involves and some ideas as to what steps you can take to make the process a little smoother. Thank you and goodbye.
Thanks for that, Lance. Don't go away quite yet because I have a question for you. But that was a great presentation that kind of took us through the entire process from deciding you needed a new brand exercise to coming up with what the brand needed to convey, how it would look, and how you would extend it into the marketplace. My only question, which I think would be of interest to the audience, is from the point where you decided to begin this exercise until you felt like you were pretty much through it in terms of attaching brand communications to the branding, how long a process was that in total?
So if you include what I mentioned that we sort of first started thinking about it, that was way back when we started getting training from Gaining Edge back in 2013. But when we really sort of started getting into the nuts and bolts of it was probably the end of 2019, and then all through 2020 we did the process. It honestly took we didn't expect it to take that long. Like I said, there were some challenges with working with a consulting agency that I probably sort of understated during my presentation, just communication things and going back and forth. But yeah, it was really, I would say, a solid year and 2 or 3 months.
Okay, and I think that's a good answer in the sense that most of those kinds of exercises, they take time to get them right. Clearly, you've gotten it right. You've done a great job, but you have to commit time to it. It's going to take a year or two to get that process going. So thank you again very much, Lance, for that great presentation.
My pleasure.
Excited about our third speaker as well, who is Ho Chun, who is a professor at the Dongjuk Women's University, and specifically in a global MICE major area. He has his doctoral degree in hotel and tourism at Kyunghee University, and he's a director of the Donguk Culture and Tourism Event Strategy Research Institute. So Ho Chun is going to be telling us a little bit about how to be competitive, how to take a destination to the top. So with that, Ho Chun, greetings and share your wisdom with us. Thank you.
네, 안녕하십니까. 방금 소개받은 동덕여자대학교의 허준 교수입니다. 네, 오늘 세 번째 발표를 제가 데스티네이션 마케팅에 대한 부분인데 아시아 데스티네이션 라운드 테이블에서 각 도시의 대표자들께서 얘기를 해주셨어요. 근데 저는 오늘 고양시에 대한 얘기를 하고자 합니다. 근데 저는 고양시의 대표는 아니고요. 그래서 제가 이렇게 발표 기회를 갖게 된 건 이런 훌륭한 행사를 기획하시고 진행하시는 고양 12B가 동덕여대와 함께 이제 지속가능성 저희 일부를 참여하고 있는데요. 지속가능성, 마이스 지속가능성에 대한 그런 발전 그리고 고양시의 마이스 경쟁력 강화 전략이나 방안을 수립하는 거에 저희가 동덕여대가 참여하고 있다 보니까 이번에 제가 맡은 연구와 연관해서 이렇게 발표 기회를 주신 것 같습니다. 네, 상당히 영광이고요. 그런 발표를 시작할 수 있도록 하겠습니다. 네, 전체적으로 아시아의 리딩 마이스 데스티네이션이 되기 위해서 고양시가 어떠한 그런 데스티네이션 경쟁력 전략을 써야 되는지에 대한 부분들을 저희가 지금 방금 저를 소개해 주신 게이닝 엣지의 경쟁력 연구 보고서와 그다음에 ICCA와 많은 기관들이 참여한 이 글로벌 데스티네이션 서스테이너블 인덱스에 대한 부분들을 기반으로 벤치마킹하고 그다음에 앞으로 고양시에 특화된 나아갈 방향들을 만들기 위해 저희가 연구를 진행했습니다. 크게 세 가지로 목차로 구분할 수 있겠는데요. 이제 경쟁력과 관련된 평가 부분, 고양시에 대한 경쟁력과 관련된 평가 부분을 먼저 짚어보고 두 번째로는 데스티네이션 서스테이너블 인덱스, 서스테이너빌리티 인덱스, 지속 가능성에 대한 평가 부분, 고양시가 마이스 데스티네이션으로서 어떤 지속 가능성을 갖고 있는지에 대한 평가 결과를 기반으로 해서 그럼 우리는 어떻게 그 고양시가 앞으로 미래 전략을 이끌어 나가야 될 것인가, 계속 임프루브 해나가야 될 것인가에 대한 부분들을 얘기를 해보도록 하겠습니다. 네, 연구의 목적은 방금 말씀드린 것처럼 게이닝 엣지의 이 경쟁력 보고서와 이 데스티네이션의 지속 가능성 보고서를 기반으로 해서 어떤 벤치마킹과 그다음에 혁신과 어떤 진화를 위한 그 전략을 도출하는 데에 그 목적이 있습니다. 첫 번째 경쟁력에 관련해서 얘기를 드릴게요. 고양 12B는 이 게이닝 엣지와 아주 밀접한 협력 관계를 바탕으로 2020년에 이제 2019년이죠. 이제 코로나가 있기 이전에 2019년에 고양시가 어떠한 마이스 목적지로서의 경쟁력을 갖고 있는지를 이제 평가를 받았습니다. 개별 평가를 추가로 받았고요. 그 결과를 바탕으로 말씀을 드리고자 하는데 여러분들 많이 아실 거라고 생각해서 오늘 시간 관계상도 있고 짧게 설명을 드리면 게이닝 엣지가 개발한 마이스 도시 경쟁력 지수는 특정 도시의 국제회의 및 컨벤션의 생산성에 초점을 맞추고 있습니다. 거기에 따른 항목들을 이제 평가 항목들을 여기 국제회의 및 컨벤션 인프라나 수용력, 접근성, 그 다음에 방문, 물가, 비용, 참가자 수요, 도시 매력성, 그 다음에 물류와 비즈니스 환경, 안전, 안정성 이런 부분들의 항목을 가지고 이제 경쟁력을 평가합니다. 근데 이렇게 평가하는 부분에 있어서 반드시 그 마이스 도시가 가장 좋은 도시 혹은 가장 성공한 도시를 측정하기 위해서 어떤 순위를 매기기 위해서 측정하는 것은 아니고요. 마이스 도시가 갖추어진 시설 그리고 환경들을 기준으로 했을 때 해당 도시가 합리적으로 마이스의 성과를 얼마만큼 달성할 수 있을지를 점수로서 보여주는 내용이라고 할 수 있겠습니다. 그러므로 이 마이스 소비자 혹은 이 마이스 이제 디벨로퍼들 그다음에 정책 개발자들이 선택을 하는 의사결정에 있어서 이제 도움을 줄 수 있는 어떤 합리적인 어떤 지표를 제시하기 위한 목적으로 하고 있습니다. 근데 이제 이렇게 하기 위해서 어떤 마이스 도시가 경쟁력을 가지기 위한 어떤 인풋 요소에 대해서 평가하는 것은 아닙니다. 그러니까 그 생산성이라고 해서 결과 요소에 대해서 평가를 하고요. 이 결과가 나타났다는 건 물론 그 안에 다양한 변수들이 있겠지만 어느 정도 그 도시가 통제 가능한 수단들을 이용해서 어떤 경쟁력을 끌어올린 것으로 평가하고 있고요. 그렇기 때문에 인풋 요소와 통제 불가능한 요소는 고려하지 않고 통제 가능한 요소들로 인해서 이 부분들로 인해서 어떤 성과를 나타내는지를 예측하는 그런 부분으로 경쟁력 지수를 제시하고 있습니다. 그래서 아까 말씀드린 것처럼 가장 성공하거나 가장 좋은 도시의 순위를 측정하는 것이 아니라 행사 개최지 선택 시에 고려해야 하는 도시의 특장점들을 비교하는 것과 마찬가지로 도시적 특징을 어떻게 이 각각 도시들마다 차별화하고 있는지를 비교하는 것들을 중시하고 있고요. 도시가 가진 상대적 강점, 경쟁력 우위에 근거해서 정의된 종합 경쟁력을 바탕으로 해서 다른 도시보다 더 많게 혹은 더 적게 회의를 개최할 수 있음을 예측하고자 합니다. 네, 이 정도로 게이닝 엣지 제가 심층적인 연구를 진행하면서 상당히 논리적이고 상당히 합리적이고 상당히 신뢰할 수 있을 만한 그런 컨설팅 결과를 제시하는 것들을 보고 저도 상당히 개인적으로 많이 영감을 얻고 놀랐는데요. 그 부분들에 대해서 이제 평가 지표들은 아까 말씀드린 것처럼 컨벤션 시설의 어떤 그런 수용력이나 어떤 규모, 접근성, 그 다음에 이 부분들을 이제 위생 요인이라고 표현을 하는데요. 그런 부분들과 합쳐서 이 경쟁 우위 요소, 그 다음에 차별화 요소 이런 형태의 3가지 차원의 총 11가지 핵심 평가 요인을 가지고 평가를 합니다. 네, 전체 평가 대상을 가지고 평가하는 것이 아니라 이 고양시에 특화된 경쟁력 시사점을 도출하기 위해서 지역의 도시나 도시가 어느 지역에 있는지와 그 다음에 도시의 규모, 도시가 가진 특징, 그 다음에 인프라 수준, 그 다음에 관련된 어떤 그런 도시의 성장 가능성 같은 또 유사한 군들끼리 묶어서 그것을 바탕으로 해서 경쟁력 결과를 내고 있는데요. 그렇게 해서 도출된 이 부분은 고양 12비와 협의를 통해서 도출한 부분이기도 합니다. 그래서 고양시가 경쟁자라고 생각하는 부분들과 이제 엮어서 어떠한 경쟁력을 가지는지 평가한 것인데, 특히 세컨티어 도시들, 이제 수도는 아니지만 수도권에 이제 근접해서 하는 도시들과 비교하기 위해서 서울시와 근접해 있는 고양시와 인천시, 수원시를 비교 대상으로 삼았고요. 국내에서는 그 다음에 이 사이타마 도쿄 인근에 있는 사이타마시와 그 다음에 지바시를 비교 대상으로 삼았고, 그 다음에 상하이 인근과 타이페이 인근에 있는 수저우와 타오이완을 이렇게 비교 대상으로 삼았습니다. 네, 제가 앞에 부분 설명을 드렸는데 이제는 정량적 데이터를 가지고 간단히 설명을 드리고자 해요. 이 부분에서 이제 결과가 도출된 것인데 전체 이제 1000점 중에서 고양시는 469점을 확보를 했습니다. 각각의 세부 내용들은 11가지 지표에 대해서 이렇게 나와 있고요. 이 부분들을 다른 도시와 비교해 봤어요. 비교해 봤는데 비교해 보고 전체의 경쟁력에서의 평균값 중에서 고양시가 어느 정도의 경쟁적인 위치, 포지셔닝을 가지는지를 평가한 것인데 이 부분에서 안타깝게도 이 고양시는 현재 컨벤션, 시설적인 측면에서는 강점을 가지고 있지만 많은 부분에서 조금 경쟁력을 많이 가지고 있지 못한 것으로 도출이 되었습니다. 그 중에서도 좀 고민해 봐야 될 부분들은 이제 호텔 시설의 제공이라든지 그 다음에 그 목적지의 어떤 매력성, 데스티네이션을 어필하는 부분이라든지 그 다음에 로지스틱, 물류적인 측면에서 상당히 경쟁 이렇게 비교 대상 도시와 비교했을 때도 약점을 경쟁 열의를 가지고 있는 것으로 도출이 되었고요. 또한 이제 ICCA의 통계 결과를 가지고 미팅과 회의 수와 참가자 수를 가지고서 했을 때 일단 특히나 참가자 수는 킨텍스가 크기 때문에 이제 2016년 같은 경우에는 아주 대규모 참가자 행사를 유치를 했었기 때문에 이 부분에서는 조금 순위가 그 경쟁력이 있는 것으로 나오고 있습니다. 근데 이제 회의 개최 수에서는 봤을 때 전체로 ICCA 회의를 10회 정도 개최를 해서 다른 경쟁 도시에 비교해서 사이타마를 제외한 다른 도시보다는 상당히 그 열의에 있었고요. 특히나 더 규모가 작다고 할 수 있는 그 경쟁력 이게 CII 경쟁력 지수인데 경쟁력 지수에서도 그 고양보다 더 낮은 그 등급을 가지고 있는 수준을 가지고 있는 도시보다도 행사 개최 수가 더 적다고 볼 수가 적다는 것으로 이제 의견이 도출되었습니다. 그 부분들에서 이 부분을 이제 저희가 공정 점유율이라는 개념을 이 게이닝 엣지는 도입을 했어요. 공정 점유율이라는 것은 이제 그 경쟁력 지수에 의해서 합리적으로 예측 가능한 생산성을 얼마만큼 점유했는지에 대한 부분입니다. 그런데 이 공정 점유율로 봤을 때 고양시는 1년에 약 3.5회 정도의 ICCA 기준의 그 컨벤션을 못하고 있어요. 6년간은 21회의 그 공정 점유율을 손해보고 있는 것입니다. 다른 표현으로 인천 같은 경우에는 공정 점유율보다 훨씬 상회하는 그런 그 회의 개최를 하고 있었습니다. 지바도 그렇고 소주도 그렇고요. 네, 그런데 이 부분을 또 다음 단계에서는 이 모멘텀이라 어떻게 전환되는지 최근 6년간을 3년으로 쪼개서 3년 전에 개최수와 3년 후에 개최수를 비교했는데요. 3년 전과 비교해서 최근 3년이 더 많이 개최됐는지의 체인지를 보는 겁니다. 그런데 고양시 같은 경우에는 그 모멘텀이 동일했어요. 그런데 인천과 사이타마와 그 다음에 그 수원과 타오이와는 이제 지난 3년보다 최근 3년이 과거 6년 전부 3년 전부터 6년 전보다 최근 3년이 더 많은 행사를 유치하고 있었습니다. 반대로 지바와 소주 같은 경우에는 이 최근 3년이 그 3년 전과 6년 전에 비교해서 더 적은 행사를 개최를 했는데 요 두 가지의 앞에서 얘기했던 이 공정 점유율과 이 모멘텀 이 두 가지를 가지고 이렇게 그 공정 점유율 시나리오 다이내믹이라고 하는 이 사분면을 이제 게이닝 엣지에서는 결과로서 제시를 하고 있는데요. 여기 보시면은 이제 세팅 더 페이스가 있고 그 1사분면과 이제 2사분면, 3사분면, 4사분면에 인더존, 그다음에 오퍼튜니티 코스트, 그다음에 룸 투 무브 이런 개념으로 되어 있는데 이 세팅 더 페이스 같은 경우에는 너무 빨리 너무 많은 공정 점유율 이상의 행사를 개최하고 있기 때문에 어쩌면 이후에 이 로스트를 한 그 기회를 다 유치를 해내지 못한 그런 곳들이 유치 경쟁에 더 강력하게 참여할 경우에는 이 경쟁력을 실제 생산성을 잃어버릴 수도 있기 때문에 속도 조절이 어느 정도 필요하고 역시 그래도 어느 정도 매력성이 있는 부분이기 때문에 계속 키워나가야 될 부분들이 필요합니다. 다른 부분들보다 이제 고양이에 집중을 해서 본다면 고양은 오퍼튜니티 코스트와 룸 투 무브의 사이점에 존재하고 있어요. 이 얘기는 앞으로 고양이 발전해 나갈 가능성이 되게 많다. 아까 공정점유율에서도 상당히 손해보고 있었기 때문에 이 부분을 더 끌어올릴 수 있는 여지가 많다라는 부분입니다. 그렇기 때문에 앞에 다양한 11가지의 경쟁적 요인의 스트롱 포인트와 윅 포인트를 이제 모두 고려했을 때 앞으로 고양시가 경쟁력을 가지기 위해서는 이제 인프라를 활용한 상품 개발의 개선이 필요하다라는 부분입니다. 근데 이 부분은 특히나 호텔이 부족한 거는 전체적인 로지스틱의 이슈를 만들어낼 수 있는 부분들이 있기 때문에 이 부분들을 개선시키기 위해서 단순히 DMO 수준의 이 고양 12B 수준의 내용이 아니라 전반적인 고양시 정부 정책결정자, 그 상단의 경기도 정책결정자, 그리고 관련된 업계와 마이스 업계뿐만 아니라 이제 건설 관련된 그런 경제 전반의 업계들과 서로 협력적인 그런 부분들을 만들어내야 된다고 이제 제안을 하고 있습니다. 이 부분들은 짧은 기간에 이루어질 수 있는 것이 아니기 때문에 롱텀 에포트가 필요한 그런 부분이 되겠습니다. 그리고 두 번째, 데스티네이션 브랜딩을 해야 되는데 특히 고양은 아직 스트롱한 브랜드를 가지고 있지 못하기 때문에 고양만의 스트롱한 브랜드를 만들기 위해, 근데 그런 거에 이 서울 근교라는, 서울과 인접해 있다라는 경쟁력 우위 요소를 이용하고 그 다음에 큰 대형 행사를 만들 수 있고 그 대형 행사뿐만 아니라 소형 행사들도 얼마든지 해결할 수 있는 부분이 있음을 브랜딩을 통해서 어필해낼 수 있어야 된다는 부분들을 제안하고 있습니다. 그 다음에 이제 많은 이 협단체의 관계자들과의 그런 협의를 상당히 키워나가야 되는데 특히나 인터내셔널한 미팅들을 만들어내는 부분들도 있지만 인터내셔널적인 부분들이 그런 부분들도 있지만 국내에서 도출된 이런 행사들을 만들어내기 위해서 이 고양시 혹은 경기도 그다음에 국가 전체에 있는 한국 전체에 있는 많은 협단체 오피니언 리더들과 협력할 필요가 있다라는 결과를 도출을 했습니다. 네. 사실 경쟁력이라서 이 부분에 좀 집중을 하고요. 추가적으로 이제 두 번째는 이 지속 가능성에 대한 부분들이 있는데요. 지속 가능성 보고서는 이제 ICA와 함께 많은 IMAX나 이 MCI나 그다음에 유럽 시티 마케팅 이 그룹들이 같이 함께 협력해서 만든 내용들입니다. 이 부분은 또 다른 세션에서 얘기를 한다고 알고 있기 때문에 그런 부분들은 좀 넘어가고, 이 부분이 사실 스칸디나비아 쪽의 챕터에서 2012년에 먼저 서스테너빌리티 인덱스라고 해서 만들어진 이후에 계속 개발이 되다가 이후에 이제 세계 그 글로벌 수준으로 퍼졌습니다. 처음에는 15개 도시, 그 다음에 20개 도시, 그리고 16년에는 23개 도시가 참여를 했는데 지표도 처음에 하드웨어와 소프트웨어만 보고 이 부분들이 얼마만큼 임프루브 되는지에 대한 부분들을 서로 벤치마킹하면서 서로 같이 커나가자라는 부분이 있었지만 가는 부분으로 시작을 했는데 이후에는 이렇게 메소돌로지가 좀 더 구체화되고, 그리고 2018년에는 이제 47개 도시가 참여하면서 많은 대륙들이 참여하고 6개 대륙이 참여하고 그 대륙들마다 확실히 유럽 대륙 쪽이 조금 더 서스테너빌리티에 높고 다른 아시아나 이제 아메리카나 특히 이제 중동 지방은 좀 많이 낮은 것으로 이제 평가가 되고 서로 같이 글로벌 소사이어티가 전반적으로 같이 끌어올라가자라는 부분으로 해서 발전을 했는데 고양시도 여기에 참여를 하고 있고요. 2019년에는 이제 58개 도시가 평가를 받았고 전반적으로 계속 전체적인 탑 10 선진 도시들은 가장 계속해서 지속 가능성을 끌어올려가고 있고 역시 전반적인 에버리지도 올라가고 있는 것들을 볼 수 있습니다. 그리고 아시아가 특히나 많이 발전하고 있었고요. 그 중심에 고양시가 있는데요. 이 부분들로 인해서 특히 이제 그 지표들도 더 구체화가 되고 이 지표들로 인해서 그 매년 그 결과치는 조금씩 변하긴 하는데 그래도 계속 고도화돼가는 측면에서 이 GDSI는 앞으로 마이스 도시들이 변화를 계속 리더십 있게 이끌어 나가기 위한 8가지 전략들을 제시하고 있습니다. 이 부분들은 참고 부탁드리고요. 이제 고양시와 관련된 얘기를 해야 되는데 고양시는 고양시의 이제 2019년 그 결과치를 보게 되면 고양시는 전반적으로 전체 58개 도시 중에 35위 정도를 하고 있다. 그런데 이 부분은 2018년에 비해서는 랭킹이 내려갔지만 전반적으로 그 지속 가능성 수준은 올라가고 있는 수준이다. 그렇게 해서 특히나 이 환경적인 퍼포먼스와 도시 환경적인 측면과 이 사회적인 측면이 상당히 많이 개선되고 있는 부분이 있다. 하지만 경쟁 도시, 특히 다른 탑 10 에버리지와 어떤 그런 도시와 비교했을 때는 아직도 올라가야 될 부분, 35위니까요. 10위권까지 올라가기 위해서는 상당히 많은 부분의 노력들이 필요한 시점입니다. 특히 그 아시아의 방콕이나 교토, 그다음에 그 싱가포르와 비교해서도 특히 여기 그 공급자의 서스테이너빌리티와 그다음에 이 CBB나 이 도시 마케팅 측면의 서스테이너빌리티가 상당히 많이 올라가야 된다는 측면들을 제시하고 있고 당연히 모든 측면에서 그 탑 3와 비교했을 때는 아직 갈 길이 먼 얘기를 하고 멀다는 것을 제시하고 있습니다. 그렇게 해서 큰 부분에서는 먼저 태스크포스를 만들어야 된다. 그 다음에 스트래티지를 전략을 그 서스테이너빌리티에 맞게 그 설정을 해야 된다. 특히나 UN, SDG 같은 부분들을 반영해서 올려야 된다. 그리고 이 부분들을 홈페이지나 행사를 개최하더라도 RFP나 아니면 다양한 어떤 행사 이외에 많은 마이스가 연관된 많은 부분에 있어서 다 이 지속 가능성 부분들을 가지고 있어야 된다. 그리고 베스트 프랙티스를 만들고 어워드나 이런 부분들을 갈구해야 된다라는 부분들로 인해서 레코멘데이션이 있습니다. 네, 그러니까 앞에 설명이 상당히 많은 보고서를 압축적으로 얘기를 하다 보니까 좀 길었는데 고양시가 갈 곳은 가야 할 방향들은 이 앞에 보고서들에서 자명하게 제시가 되었습니다. 그 부분들은 전반적으로 이제 거버넌스를 구축하고 그리고 이제 그 이해관계자들의 협력을 같이 구축하는 과정에서 저는 제일 중요하다고 생각한 부분이 CBB와 DMO가 스스로 자체적인 경쟁력과 지속가능성 프로그램을 가지고 있어야 되는데요. 이 부분들은 전체적인 도시의 경쟁력 전략과도 연결되어 있어야 됩니다. 그 부분을 앞에 제시된 6가지 내용들을 가지고 제가 그 프레임워크를 만들었고요. 그리고 나서 거기에 대해서 이제 업무 프로그램들을 실제로 실행해 나가는 것들을 각자 해나가는 것들이 있겠지만 이 부분을 엮어서 계속 통합적으로 이루어져 가야 된다는 것들을 이제 이루어져야 가야 될 필요가 있습니다. 그래서 이 부분들에 대해서 각각 하나씩은 이제 태스크포스를 만들었어요. 특히 고양시 컨벤션 뷰로는 별도의 조직으로서 더 공고화됐고 오래전부터 고양시 지속가능성 협의회가 만들어져 있었고 그 다음에 지속가능성 추진 전문위원 위촉도 이루어져서 왕성한 활동을 하고 있습니다. 경쟁력과 관련해서도 같이 하고 있고요. 그다음에 고양시의 중장기 전략과 최근 경기도의 마이스 산업 중장기 전략이 수립되고 있는데 이 부분에서 SDG라든지 ESG라든지 그다음에 경쟁력과 관련된 많은 부분들이 반영돼 있고 그 반영되는 데 있어서 고양시가 상당히 많은 좋은 영향력을 주고 있습니다. 커뮤니케이션을 위해서는 지금 우리가 하고 있는 이 행사가 제일 중요한 하나의 커뮤니케이션 전략으로서 운영되고 있고요. 고양시는 고양 캐릭터와 이 서스테이너블 마이스 캐피탈이라는 그런 브랜드를 가지고 국내와 해외에 왕성한 활동을 하고 있고 그다음에 시민들과의 그런 그 스킨십을 키우기 위해서 청년뿐만 아니라 중장년층의 마이스 전문 운영 요원들을 가지고 있습니다. 브랜딩을 하기 위해 아이클레이와의 협력이라든지 그 다음에 이렇게 제가 이거 사진을 하다 보니까 잘생기신 분을 이렇게 좀 납작하게 만들었는데요. 좀 이해 부탁드리고 여기도 이거 킨텍스의 양주현 팀장님인데 엄청 납작하게 만들었는데 죄송합니다. 이게 수상을 이게 우피와 ICCA에서 모두 마케팅상을 수상한 곳이 이 고양시 킨텍스 고양시입니다. 그다음에 그 서스테너블 쪽으로도 계속 수상을 해가면서 브랜딩을 키우고 있고요. 마지막으로 지금 현재 킨텍스 근처에 호텔들이 부족했다는 부분들이 경쟁력에서 많은 부분, 로지스틱과 관련된 부분이 나타났는데 제3전 시장 건축과 그 다음에 마이스 얼라이언스가 확장되고 있고 특히 객실이 이제 4,000실 가까이 확보가 되는 특히 고향에 이 K컬처밸리와 이쪽 아레나가 생기고 그 근처에 호텔들이 많이 생기는 부분들, 킨텍스의 앵커 호텔이 생기는 부분들 이런 부분들이 앞으로 이 부분을 활용해서 경쟁력과 특히 지속 가능성을 키워나갈 수 있어야겠습니다. 제가 너무 오랜 시간 말씀을 드리다 보니까 좀 시간을 오버한 것 같습니다. 내용들이 좀 많아서 그랬는데 너그럽게 이해해 주셨으면 좋겠습니다. 앞으로 고양시가 이러한 모든 전략들을 통합적으로 잘해서 계속적으로 지속 가능한 경쟁력 있는 아시아의 마이스 데스티네이션이 될 수 있도록 저도 학계 측면에서 같이 협력하고 노력해 나가겠습니다. 감사합니다.
Thank you, Professor. We are about to go to a break. Excuse me, but before we do that, I wanted to make a few observations. First off, Professor, that was a great presentation. And I think that at its core, what it was showing us is that you can have facts-based decision-making. And I think that I'm sorry, I'm going to turn off my translation here. And essentially, your strategies were informed by data. You've taken as deep a look at the situation as I've seen a destination do. And based on that, that informed decision-making, you came up with specific strategies for how to improve Goyang's position and move it into the future. As part of that, you were able to make a strong business case to government. So hopefully government is also helping you to support you to do the things as a bureau that Goyang needs to accomplish and as an industry. And lastly, you're applauded, Goyang is applauded, and you are for focusing on sustainability and UN strategic sustainability development goals. And the reason I say that is the SDG Sustainable Development Goals, they're a focus of our customers now. And sustainability is a focus of our customers. So I think that's part of your branding effort, essentially, and that makes a lot of sense in today's market. Also wanted to comment, so thank you again, Professor. Also wanted to comment on Amelia's presentation. She was talking a lot about legacy, and that's another thing that our customers are very focused on. The future is all about how do meetings actually improve society and improve economies. And meetings are going to go to the places that understand legacy and are helping them to achieve their own legacies. And I think one of the key things about Amelia's presentation is that she talked about how they are aligning their legacy goals with government priorities. So again, that makes a good business case to government. We all need government to support what we're doing if we're ultimately to be successful. So Amelia's point about aligning those goals to government priorities is a very important one. And finally, in the video, you saw that part of their branding exercise is about dealing with the current COVID situation and the sense of wanting clean, safe meeting environments. And I think that video was part of demonstrating a brand there, which is that Sarawak is very adept at taking care of people's safety, and it is a safe and inviting destination. And then Lance, I wanted to mention, he said that the whole branding exercise was because there was a realization that Kobe didn't have a high level of international recognition. I wanted to debate that a little bit with him because I think Kobe has a huge international reputation, but it has more to do with Wagyu beef than it has to do with the meeting industry. But everybody knows about Kobe's Kobe beef and how great it is. So in a way, you have to kind of try and convince the world that there's more to Kobe than just beef. And that's what it seems like the Bureau is doing such a good job at. And that their whole branding effort and their whole communication strategy is about overcoming the fact that people aren't immediately thinking of Kobe in the international market, but need to. And that's what branding is all about, is changing perceptions and gaining attentions. And the last thing I'll say about his presentation is that their key positioning is Kobe for change makers. When you think about that, that's a really good positioning for the MICE market, because associations and meetings, they are seeking to change the world. They're seeking to be change makers, and Kobe is saying that it's a place for change makers. So it really ties in to the market. So all three speakers, much appreciated, great presentations, and dealing with branding issues, sustainability issues, legacy issues, and ultimately talking about how destinations can be more successful. With that, we want to take a 5-minute break. So please come back in 5 minutes, and then we're going to dig deeper into the world of branding. How can you take what our speakers have talked about and some other concepts, and I'm going to help you through a process to think about your own, building your own future brand communication strategy. So let's take a 5-minute break, and we'll see you back after 5 minutes. All right, welcome back, everybody. We're ready to start our session on branding. And I want to get right into it. We're running a little bit behind schedule, so I want to go ahead. Can everybody see the screen? Is everybody okay? All right, so first, in terms of understanding the world of branding, I want to go through a few concepts. And maybe one of the most important is that branding is, as the professor demonstrated and as Lance demonstrated, a very involved process. You need a brand strategy, and we'll talk more about that during this session. You need, as Lance talked about, a brand brief to an agency to help you come up with the look and feel and the visual. You need a communication plan. How do you extend that brand out into the marketplace? And you need brand activation on all kinds of communication platforms. And it doesn't end there, because that process of extending a brand needs to be measured to make sure it's successful. So you need to ultimately audit the brand. How good is the brand perception among your clients, and is the brand resonating with them? I wanted to kind of share this. It's a little bit humorous, but it's true. Your brand strategy is basically what you want your customers to believe about your product. So here's a bit of a cartoon where the guy wants people to think he's great. And so marketing is saying that you're great. Advertising is repeating that over and over again. He says, I'm great, I'm great, I'm great. And then public relations is getting someone else to say that about you. But ultimately, branding doesn't happen until the target audience thinks you're great. So essentially, branding is what your customers actually believe about your product. And I want to put in a bit of a definition here, talking about the word branding, because I think people get confused about sometimes what we're talking about. I always put it this way: branding can be a noun or a verb. If it's a verb, it's about your activities. You are working to extend a brand. You're working to establish a brand in the customer's head. So that is an active process of branding. But branding can also be a noun, meaning it is the customer perception of what a product or a service is like, or what it promises. The branding can be your activity of trying to put a brand into the marketplace, or it can be what exists in your customers' heads as a noun. And I think that one of the things to convey there is that the core idea behind your brand can be explained by one question, and that is, what is your promise? And a brand is who you are, who you want to be, and who you want people to perceive you to be. A lot of people think of logos as brands, and they really aren't. And I just want to make that point, because doing a good branding exercise, it's important not to let people get too fixated on logos. And I'll give you an example. To me, a logo is like the face of your product. A brand is what people associate with that face. So I'm using an example, a human example here. Let's talk about a company, Nike. So their logo is what makes us think of Nike, but really what their brand is that their shoes help us to win. So the logo itself is not the brand. The logo is kind of the face that makes us think of their brand promise. And I'll use a human example of that. If you think about Messi, the famous soccer player, his logo in a way is his face, but his face is not his brand. I mean, he's a good looking guy, I'm sure, but that's not his brand. His brand is that he kicks goals on the soccer field. So it's important to distinguish between logos and brands. A logo is just the face of a brand, and a brand is actually a promise that you're making in a marketplace. In terms of brand extension, it's much more than a logo again. Yes, you need a logo, you need a face, but then you need a tagline or positioning. You need a value proposition that will appeal to your customers. You have to have key messaging, just as Lance showed us, a comprehensive communication plan. You need evidence. You need to prove your promise. You can't just say it, you have to prove it. And you need good imagery, good look and feel, and the way Kobe did it. And I wanted to talk a little bit about brand architecture. I don't have the time to go deeply into this, but it's important that you understand a little bit about brand architecture because it will help you get your branding right. And there are different kinds of architecture. Again, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here, but in a way, a destination can think of itself as a branded house, like FedEx here. FedEx has its parent logo, branding that you associate with FedEx, what you believe about them. But then it has the different FedEx products underneath there. And I would say that's a bit like branding a destination. And the reason I say that is because you've got your higher level destination brand, what people believe about your destination, but then you have to convey your brand into different market segments because convention planners care about different things than corporate meeting planners or incentive planners. And so it's important to think in terms of you've got a destination, but you also need to have kind of some sub-brands, especially in relation to tourism. We say to clients a lot, a tourism brand is not a MICE brand. Meeting planners will not respond to a tourism brand. So there needs to be a specific MICE sub-brand for a community like Kobe to speak to those specific clients. I'll talk a little bit more about brand architecture in a moment. There's lots of terms that people use when they're talking about branding, and I'm just covering them quickly here because I think it's helpful to get your mind around the whole world of branding. One thing people talk about is brand equity. And what I've put on this slide is that that's a measure of a brand's positive recognition or goodwill. It's about the premium that can be charged. And in terms of commodities, I'm using cars here as an example. You would say that Mercedes-Benz probably has a higher level of brand equity than Toyota because people will in general pay more for a Mercedes-Benz than they will for a Toyota. Interestingly enough, in terms of the value of a brand, Toyota sells a lot more cars and is much more profitable than Mercedes. But as far as the brand on a product, there's a lot of brand equity that's been built up by Mercedes over the years. And it can be said to be coming from an aggregate worth of what's in the minds of the consumer. It's the brand image, its identity, the level of awareness, their perception of its quality, loyalty that develops over time, and any other positive brand associations. One of the key things that I think is important to understand about branding is that the world of branding has changed dramatically in the last 20 years. 20 years ago, the activity of branding was focused on the premise that the company that's promoting a brand controls the message, controls the communications. That's no longer true. The internet, the web, social media has changed all that, such that you don't really control the message anymore. The message is controlled by customers and by people on social networks and in other forms of media. So what that means is that in some ways, delivery becomes more important than communications. I'm just stressing this because we're going to talk a lot about brand communications today, which are essential that you get that right because you're trying to influence the brand. But essentially, once you communicate a promise, you must keep it. And that's where delivery comes in. If you don't have strong delivery, you don't have a strong brand. And that's a bigger focus now for destination promoters than it used to be. One of the things that I always say is that a brand is a promise made and a promise delivered. If you don't deliver your brand promise, your brand dies. And we're going to give a bit of an example of that a little later. Also want to talk about vertical integration of brands. One of the, we worked with Japan on developing a MICE sub-brand. Our advice to them, this was a few years ago, but our advice to them was that Endless Discovery is a great brand for tourism, but not particularly appropriate for the MICE market. So they went through a process similar to Kobe. They got an agency. The agency asked us for a bit of advice as well as other experts in the marketplace. And what they came up with was a new logo, which matches the tourism logo, but has a different value proposition or a different positioning. Instead of endless discovery, what they're saying is meetings and events, new ideas start here. So just as we talked about in the Kobe brand, as that positioning statement resounding or being strong with this market, so is the concept of ideas. New ideas start here is the kind of thing that you would say to a meeting planner because they're looking for innovative places that offer new ways of thinking. If you say new ideas start here to a tourist, they won't respond to that. If you say new ideas start here to a meeting planner, that's what they need to hear to be interested in your destination. One of the things that we said to Japan after they developed this was that it's really important now that in your messaging and communications, you convey why Japan is a place for new ideas. If that's your promise, you need to convey that in your messaging. You need to show ways to prove that promise. I talked earlier about brand architecture, and I just wanted to share this with you because it is a Korean example. And we recently did a project with Daegu because, as you know, they've begun branding what they're calling the Daegu Business Events District. So Gaining Edge helped them develop this brand communication strategy, and basically what I'm showing here on architecture, which we shared with them, is look, Daegu has a lead brand. It's colorful Daegu. It's been in the marketplace for years. You don't want to move totally away from that because there's brand equity in that. I talked earlier about brand equity. So there's value in that, and we need to leverage that value. However, colorful Daegu does not speak to meeting planners. So we needed a sub-brand underneath colorful Daegu that deals with the convention market. And basically, the Business Events District is then a sub-brand to that broader Daegu brand. The Business Events District is one part, is a precinct of Daegu. It has a major convention center. It has a university, and it has some other precinct assets, a bit of shopping and dining, cultural assets. So the Business Events District is a very strong product in Daegu, but it does not encompass the entire Daegu convention product. So it's technically a sub-brand to the Daegu Conventions brand. And so, what we're also saying is that you have Exco, which is the convention center, and you have KNU, which is the university. They become sub-brands to the Business Events District. So that's a little bit of a brand architecture about how all these different entities relate to each other and how you structure a brand communication or a suite of brands where they're all working together. You know, you could also think of the fact that every destination in Korea needs to leverage the Korean brand. Korea has a very strong brand equity. People have very strong notions about Korea, and they see it as a very innovative place, a world leading place. So every destination in Korea needs to leverage that Korean brand. And you have to think in terms of how does a destination brand relate to the fact that you've got a Korean tourism brand, Imagine Your Korea, and you've got a Korean meetings brand, Korea Beyond Meetings. So all of that needs to be somehow integrated into your brand communications. It has to be vertically integrated. And then ultimately, the Daegu Bureau in this case needs to look at all of that and think in terms of how to convey all that in a very logical way. So that's just a little bit about a specific example of brand architecture. Again, I'm covering this off quickly, a lot of concepts, but it's important to think about and get your mind around these things. I'm not going to go into a lot of talk here about brand activation because I think Lance did a very good job on that. He talked about how they had to develop their style guide, which is the rules by which they decide how things appear, what colors they are, the look and feel. And they also came up with all of their various applications. So he kind of covered this part. In terms of brand perception, once you've gone through a branding process, and we will actually talk about that in the second part of this workshop today. Once you've gone through your brand communication process, it's important to monitor if your brand is working. You can do that through post-event surveys. You can do that through something we call a Net Promoter Score. Again, not to belabor the point, but a lot of companies, destinations are using Net Promoter Score. It's a very simple way to see if you're developing a strong space in the market. It's basically asking customers one question: would you recommend our product to your friends and colleagues? And then you measure over time that willingness of people to recommend your product. They become your promoters. So that's a Net Promoter Score. And I think that's a very useful way to monitor the strength of a brand. There's also brand perception studies where you actually interview customers, past customers, potential customers, and determine if they are thinking of your brand the way that you are wanting your brand to be thought about. Again, your brand is what is in the customer's mind. So we need to monitor what is in the customer's mind. Is it what we want them to perceive about our product? Is it the promise that we're making to them that we want them to understand? And lastly, through all of that, you can do case studies and testimonials to further propel your brand and to prove your brand promise. So with that, I just wanted to switch back to I'm going to turn off my screen share here. And I just wanted to switch back to the audience and see if there are any questions about anything that I've said. Now, Kayla, I can't see the live audience, so I don't know if anybody, there you go. So if anybody does have any questions, just raise your hand, or if anybody who's virtual, remotely involved here, you've got a virtual hand, or you can just speak up. Just activate your mic and call out. Does anybody have any questions they'd like to ask? Okay. Now, I want to make sure, Kayla, that if anybody does have questions, that you let me know that, because I can only see the room so well, and I'm not sure the sound. I'm not sure I'm getting the sound from the room. Okay, so I'm going to go back to sharing my screen again, and we're going to do a bit of a workshop exercise here. Get this going. I wanted to really think about this claim or this promise. I want to use Goyang as an example, because remember what I said, brand is a promise made and a promise delivered, and that promise needs to be proven in a convincing way through your brand communications. So Goyang, I think, has a great brand promise here: sustainable mice capital of Korea. That claim or that promise or that positioning statement is saying a lot of things. It's saying that it's very sustainable, which is compelling to this market. And it's saying that it's actually saying it's the most sustainable, or the sustainable mice capital. So it's claiming a space there in relation to Korea that's very special, the most sustainable mice destination in Korea. So the questions as Goyang goes forward in its branding is to think about, how does Goyang deliver against that promise? How do local suppliers deliver against that promise? Because remember what I said earlier, a brand is only as strong as the delivery these days. The world is going to talk about Goyang. People are going to be on social media talking about Goyang. Meeting planners are going to talk to each other about Goyang. But essentially, we need to deliver against that promise. If we do not deliver a sense that Goyang has got a very sustainable mice industry, then the brand will not be successful. And I've just said mice industry. It can't just be the Bureau. If you're going to say you're the most sustainable place in Korea for the mice industry, then the delivery has to be sustainable, and the delivery is done by hotels and venues and PCOs and other kinds of service providers. So there's a key concept here, which is important. Number one, we have to communicate in a convincing way that we really are the most sustainable mice capital. And we need to make sure that our local suppliers are delivering to that promise as well. Because if the Goyang Bureau says it, but the supplier community doesn't deliver it, then the brand has no real worth. So I'd like to take 5 minutes. I'd like to ask everybody, especially in the room, but also any guests that are here remotely. I'd like you to take about 5 minutes working individually, just think to yourself, and be ready to report back to the group your thoughts on this. I'm going to ask Peter to call on one or two of you to kind of share your thoughts, or you can volunteer if you want to share your thoughts. But step one over the course of the next 5 minutes is think of a way that Goyang can deliver that promise, sustainable mice capital of Korea. How do you think they can actually deliver that promise? And secondly, how can a local mice supplier support that delivery? What specific things should Goyang be looking for a local mice supplier to do? So just I'm going to leave that slide up. Just think about those two questions for 5 minutes, and then we're going to ask one or two of you to share some thoughts with us.
Gary? Hello, Gary?
Yes, Kayla?
Yes, we were going to have 2 person for 1 step for 1 person, and then 2 step the answer for the 1 person. So we will prepare 2 person for that.
Okay, great. I'm just going to let Peter kind of invite people to report back.
Yeah, please let us have the 3 minutes more.
3 minutes more, okay.
무서운 사람 우리 그 고향 서스테이너블 마이크
하시는 분 2번 마이크 2번 부장님 말씀 주시면 마이크 전달하겠습니다. 네. Okay. 1 more minute. Hi, Gary. I think you can stop your slide sharing so we can see your face and you can see her face. So it's kind of discussing.
All right. So who has some thoughts about those two questions?
네, 안녕하세요. 저는 경기관광공사 해마이스합팀의 최숙희라고 합니다. 우선 게리 그레머 회장님의 브랜딩 관련된 발표 너무 잘 들었습니다. 그래서 브랜드에 대한 개념 먼저 다시 한번 제가 정리할 수 있는 시간이었던 것 같고요. 첫 번째 서스테이너블 마이스 캐피털 오브 코리아라는 이 고향이 가지고 있는 서브 브랜드에 대한 어떤 방법적인 면을 저는 아주 짧은 시간에 생각을 해봤는데요. 저는 이제 고향이 경기도에 있기 때문에 저희는 어떻게 같은 이제 그 맥락으로 가야 되거든요. 그래서 요즘에 특히 이제 ESG가 기업들도 많이 이제 이렇게 표방을 하고 있고, 그 부분 중에 하나가 이제 서스테이너블이라고 보여지고 있고요. 그래서 저희도 요즘에 고민하는 것은 이제 마이스 쪽에서 이제 그린 마이스라고 해서 어떻게 하면은 이제 이런 그린 마이스의 이 방향을 내년도부터 사업 방향에 반영하고 추진할 것이냐 이제 이 고민을 많이 하고 있습니다. 그래서 중장기 계획도 세우고 있고요. 그래서 작게는 이제 경기도 또 고향에서 행사를 하고 싶어하는 주체 주관 기관사에 어떻게 보면은 그린마이스 서스테이너블이라는 요 꼭지에 를 지킬 수 있는 한 부분이라도 있다면 그런 행사들에 대해서 좀 가산점을 주고 저희가 그런 행사들을 개최할 수 있도록 지원해주고 이런 지원의 폭을 넓혀가는 거 그게 좀 하나의 방법이 되지 않을까 생각을 해봤고요. 그리고 이제 주최기관사에서도 이런 이제 서스테이너블한 행사를 개최하고 그린마이스에 좀 접목된 행사를 개최하기 위해서 그분들이 준수할 수 있는 어떤 그린마이스에 대한 체크리스트라든지 매뉴얼이라든지 이런 거를 저희가 고향이랑 같이 작업을 해서 고향시에서 개최하는 행사의 주최 주관사들에게 배포해서 그런 행사를 개최할 수 있도록 지지하고 지원하는 게 필요하다고 생각합니다. 감사합니다.
That's a great response. I would call that, I'm sorry, I'm getting an echo. Let me just get my sound set here. I would call all of that product development, which is a perfect answer. You're trying to be the most sustainable MICE destination. It's not just saying the words, you're actually going through a process of building specific sustainable offerings through your green MICE product. And it's like the professor was talking about, you know, you've gotten involved in the sustainability index, so you're able to prove your level of sustainability through your continued efforts to always move the needle and be more sustainable. So I think that's a great example, and product is part of the delivery. So as I say, if you have a brand, you must deliver against the brand, and you have to develop product that delivers against that brand. I think that was a great answer. Peter, did we have two people giving us a response? Did someone else got any ideas about what Goyang does to achieve that status as most sustainable? Or do you want to move to question 2 now?
To the first questions, we already doing something. So first thing is we already set up the sustainable strategy for the destination sustainability in last year, that including and vision and goals and action plan, and we planned right now, and also we had some like the number of goals for next 5 years, and then now we are developing sustainable manual for the organizer and supplier. So and this year we have a plan to conduct some program for achieve the sustainability to fit our strategy. So we using sustainable MICE capital in Korea, but step by step, the Goyang CBB and Goyang City doing some various efforts to achieve that the brand. And we can move on to the second question. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I will pass to.
Yeah. Hi. My name is Hyowin Son. I'm from Kintex, the biggest venue actually in Goyang. So I guess I should talk about, well, you know, in our position regarding the question 2. So how do we, Kintex as a local supplier, supports Goyang's efforts or Goyang's brands as the MICE capital in Korea? So, well, Kintex is actually doing a lot of things to be a sustainable venue, I guess, to be eco-friendly. So for example, it's kind of incorporated into our buildings itself. So our ceilings, for example, will open up in the exhibition halls, and so we can light up the exhibition halls themselves when they're during an exhibition using natural light and without having to use any electricity for the matter. And we've actually implemented some electronic car charging spots within the Kintex building as well, the parking lots. And we're actually actively motivating and recommending the organizers to use the local vendors for their conventions or events or exhibitions as well. So the carbon footprint, I guess, and resulting from setting up all their events and exhibitions will be reduced when they hold one. And we are also actually recommending organizers to reuse their signages. And we are actually reusing some of the signages as a result that increased as a result of the COVID social distancing, or the signages promoting them to wear masks, so something like that. We'll be collecting those after each event and reusing them every time. So I guess I could say that we are actually trying to support and promote the sub-brand of Goyang as the sustainable mice capital at the moment. But I guess we can do more by perhaps looking into the GDS index and Goyang's strategy and being more sustainable, and actively participating in them. And we can also, I guess, develop programs with the organizers and our catering company to, for example, donating the leftover foods after an event to local volunteer organizations and such. And I guess that's about it. Thank you.
Okay, that's a good response too. You know, what's interesting is that you're the primary venue, and venues have been, I would say globally, venues have been at the forefront on sustainability in our industry. So it makes total sense that the primary venue would be a very strong asset and supporter of that brand communication and that brand delivery. I guess the question I would ask is, let's move beyond the major venue. We need hotels to actively participate in delivering green mice. I'm using your term, green mice. We need PCOs, we need hotels, we need other service providers. I know that the venue is committed. Are all the service providers somehow actively engaged in this sustainability delivery process? Peter, maybe that's a question for you.
I can say is that is to participate in whole supply chain for the meeting industry is our priority task for now. So far we made a strategy and we made some manual, but we can convince the association or some organizer. So because they are already aware the sustainability is very important, but the green mice is important. They know that, but supply to participate in the supply chain is there is some little bit different matter, because the perception so far of for the supplier, sustainable thing and green thing is they need a more cost. So actually it's a number, not more cost. There's we need some more the budget relocation we need for that. But people's thinking is to achieve the green meeting and the green mice. So they simply think that cost more things. So we will find a way to, as some GTO said, we will find a way, some benefit program for the supply chain. So next, and also the Goyang CBB has a plan to in next year maybe we will find a way to occupy the budget for that, but the certification program for the green meeting. So I think it's a CBB and other hotel and the venue. We will try to, I hope to make it happen, but we will try to make a consulting for the sustainability, some kind of certification and the consulting. Then we'll try to find a way to achieve the certification for the green meeting or sustainability. But to participate in the whole supply chain in this sustainable thing is our primary task, and we'll have a plan to do that. I can say that.
And one piece of advice, and maybe you're already doing this through the sustainability index process, but one piece of advice I have is going back to my point about monitoring the success of your brand. And one obvious way to monitor is to ask meeting planners in a post-meeting interview if they feel that Goyang delivered against that promise. what they're definitely going to tell you, I think, is that the Bureau is, and I think they're going to say that the venue is. But if you ask them about other suppliers, it's a good way of testing whether or not the suppliers have become engaged. And it also gives a feedback loop, because if they were to say some suppliers did fulfill the brand promise, but then they say that some others didn't, then that gives you an opportunity to engage those in a conversation where you're able to help them by saying, look, here are customers who are saying you're not delivering against this promise. And so it kind of creates that healthy feedback loop on trying to get the delivery right throughout your supply chain.
Okay, good
But I
advice.
hear what you're saying, and I think you guys, in terms of sustainability, are doing a lot more than most destinations.
Okay, so thank you for your advice. I will ask my colleague in my CBB and find a way to get monitoring for the meeting planner for the sustainability and green meeting. Thanks.
Yeah, pleasure. Fiona, there's a Fiona in the audience, and she asked a question about how can the Convention Bureau work with the private sector in terms of communicating that brand within the local community. And I think that's a great question. One of the things that's really important in branding is to think in terms of all the various audiences that you have. And sometimes we tend to just think of the customer, the end user, in terms of branding, but your branding is important in terms of communicating to your local government supporters. And it's important to communicate to the local community, because one of the things that's being talked about a lot in the kind of post-COVID, you know, what's the new world going to look like after COVID? One of the key things people are talking about is the importance of community support in terms of our industry. We tend to be outward facing. We tend to face our clients. We don't tend to spend as much time kind of communicating within our local community and making sure that the community embraces, understands, appreciates, and supports the effort to build a strong mice industry. So obviously what that says is your branding needs to be directed within the local community as well. So I think Fiona's question is making a good point, that part of the focus could be on how to engage your supplier industry members and the Bureau to communicate to the local community as well. I don't know if you want to comment on that or not, Peter. If you want to comment, great. Otherwise, we'll move on.
I think we can move on.
Okay. So now we are going to take another quick break, just because it's been a fairly long morning. So take another 5-minute break, just stretch a bit, get a bit of tea or whatever, and then we'll come back with the second part of our workshop, which is about how to actually begin strengthening your brand communication strategy. 5 minutes, we'll see you back. Okay, everybody, welcome back. As I mentioned, want to talk a little bit now about how to further strengthen your brand communication. I picked that picture as kind of a little bit of an inside joke because I know Korea is a world leader in robotics. And it's kind of interesting there, the modern technology of robots mixed with the old-fashioned telephone made out of tin cans and a string. So I thought that was pretty good. So we want to start talking about your brand communication and your brand DNA. I need to get my screen moving here. There it goes. Just the process, and you know, Lance talked about this a bit, but I want to go through it to help you with your thinking. And as I'm speaking, I want to make it clear, Goyang as a bureau, as a destination, has already gone through a branding process. It may be thinking about, as most brands do, thinking about updating, continuing to develop the brand. One thing that's important with all brands is that you're always, I would say, seeking to improve the communications, seeking to update your communications. So branding as a exercise, as a verb, as an activity, how you project your brand is an ongoing development process. So I think what I'm about to talk about hopefully will be helpful to Goyang Bureau and to the destination brand, but also I'm speaking to anybody in the audience that may be the venue or maybe a PCO or a hotel or what have you, because all of the same branding principles apply. One of the things, without going into detail here, is that you do want to start with a bit of a SWOT analysis. And I actually suggest that the major focus is strengths and weaknesses. And that's because those inform your decision-making about what you're going to communicate. And again, I'll get into that in more detail momentarily. The way that we do branding, we went through this process, as I mentioned, in Daegu. And we've done this in Thailand and Japan and other places. But the way we go through the process is we start by talking about differentiation. It's important in your brand communications that you can spell out unique selling propositions or unique selling points. You need to differentiate yourself from competing products or brands. You have to ask yourself the question, why is your product better than the competition? In Goyang's case, why is our product more sustainable than the competition? And again, one of the key concepts that we stress is that for these unique selling points to be credible, there has to be evidence. It's not enough that you say these things. You have to prove them in your communications if you want your promise to be believed. We use a process that we call a brand wheel, and you're going to see through these illustrations how we tend to build a brand wheel or brand communication strategy. The starting point is about first doing some thinking about your competitive environment. And I've just put a few examples. Everything you're going to see here is just me putting a few examples of the kinds of things that you might put into a brand communication strategy. So for a competitive environment, yes, maybe our competition is going to be fierce because after COVID, everyone's going to be hungry. Maybe, yes, we all realize that hybrid meetings will be a norm. They've learned how to do virtual or remote conferencing now, so they will extend their live meetings and have hybrid meetings. In terms of target audience, as an example, it depends on who your segments are. And if you want to be even more specific, but I just put their target audience, you might say, is associations and corporate meeting planners. Who are we trying to appeal to? I said before, government's an audience, your local community is an audience, but at least we know that our customers are an audience, and in this case, it could be meeting planners. In terms of insights, if that's your target audience, associations are going to be highly value focused. They've suffered during COVID in terms of losing resources, losing members, losing sponsors. So they're going to be really seeking value for money. And obviously, as was demonstrated in Amelia's presentation, you know, branding, safety, cleanliness, hygiene will be really key on people's minds in the post-COVID world. So in terms of differentiation, you think about the things that I mentioned before. A differentiator might be we go the extra mile. We have a unique culture from our competitors. We have a high level of community engagement, which may be very appealing to meeting planners. Again, don't take those examples so seriously. I'm just giving examples of how there's a differentiator here. The next step that we tend to go through is talking about benefits. This is a really important one because I think if I look around at brand communication strategies, and if I pick a common weakness that we find is that people have not been really clear on defining customer benefits. Customer benefit is, you've got a customer and you need to think in terms of how somehow your brand promise or your product is going to contribute to their success. What kinds of things do they love about your destination or your product? And usually when you think in terms of benefits, you want the first word to be an action word. It needs to be a verb that kind of conveys an important benefit. So I'll give an example on the right of this slide. I picked something separate from meetings just to kind of make a good illustration. I picked the benefits of physical activity, and look at what they're saying. They all start with action words. It helps to maintain body weight. It lowers blood pressure. It increases your strength. So you can see that those are clearly defined benefits. And it's important, and again, we'll go into more detail on this, but it's important to be really clear on what benefits you're promising. So I gave you a few examples here. One might be that you get high delegate attendance. One might be that you get a lot for your money, which we know is particularly relevant these days with these customers. It might be that we make planning easy. We have a very strong support services network. We have a mature supplier community. We're experienced at delivering for international meetings. So again, I'll back up a little bit. When you think about differentiation, one of Goyang's differentiators, as an example, is it's the most sustainable. That's a differentiator. What is the benefit of being more sustainable? What is the benefit to the customer of being more sustainable? And again, that'll be a subject of our workshop. The next step is what I call reason to believe. This is about evidence. This is about proof. Why should your customers or your audience believe what you're saying and believe in your product? So when you think about the kinds of evidence or proof you might have, that can be things like indices or rankings. I want to give you an example of that. One of the things that's important in our industry, as we know, is English proficiency, because in a sense, English is the international language of the meetings industry. And so meeting planners are often thinking that they want destinations where there's proficiency among the suppliers and even just proficiency within the community, so that when delegates are moving around the community, they're able to communicate successfully or effectively, despite the fact that even the delegates may not have English as a first language. So an example of this reason to believe proof is that one of our clients that we also helped with branding was Malaysia. And Malaysia actually found an international index that said that Malaysia was the highest English proficiency nation in Asia. So there was a third-party resource that was proving their point about English proficiency. So the benefit was easy to communicate, and the proof was here's an international respected body that says that we're the most English proficient in Asia. That's what I mean by evidence and proof. You go to third-party sources. It's not enough that you say it. You're marketing a destination. You're expected to say it. What's important is that others say it, and respectable sources. It can be newspapers or magazine articles. It can be case studies that are produced by people other than you. It can be quotes and testimonials. It can be research findings, or it can be examples of things. I'll give you an example right now on the right side of that slide. When I was still at the Melbourne Bureau, excuse me, one of our positioning was that Melbourne was the intelligent choice for meetings. And that was really early in the days when most destinations were still talking about, hey, we're a great place to visit. Have your meeting here because it's a fun destination. Well, we all know the world has moved on since then, and we kind of figured that out pretty early in Melbourne, and we decided to position it as an intelligent choice for conferences, which also we were saying it's an intelligent place, it's an innovative place, it's a knowledgeable place, and it's a place where you can bring a meeting and learn new ways of doing things, which is a real benefit. So how do we prove that? And giving examples is what we did on this slide. And we basically accounted for the fact that we had a lot of biotechnology companies. I'll say to you it's relevant because of the time we're in, the global pandemic. Melbourne is Australia's biomedical center, and we actually produce AstraZeneca vaccine here. So we're going to be supplying AstraZeneca to Southeast Asia, especially other parts of Asia as well, ultimately. And we're also within 6 months going to have a laboratory that's producing the mRNA vaccine. And there's only a handful of those in the world. So that's all proof that we can use to show that Melbourne's a leader, a global leader in biotechnology. But other examples, we have 13 medical research institutes. This was 10 years ago, by the way. It's probably changed. We've got a synchrotron. We have 800 ICT businesses, 500 aviation and aerospace companies. So again, I'm not going to go through the whole list, but the point I'm making is that you can use examples like that as evidence to prove what you're saying is true. So in terms of reasons to believe, again, I mentioned earlier the Net Promoter Score. You can publicize a Net Promoter Score. It's basically saying 95% of our customers would endorse our product to their friends and colleagues. So Net Promoter Score is something that's respected internationally, and you can use as a reason to believe or a proof of your brand. Again, client testimonials. If you were saying that your benefit is that, let's use Goyang as an example again. Goyang gets high delegate attendance. That's a benefit. Well, how do you prove it? Well, maybe you have delegate attendance case studies, or you have testimonials by a customer who said, our meeting in Goyang was the highest attendance in the history of our meeting. So those are the kinds of things that you need to put forward as proof or evidence to substantiate your brand promise. Kind of an interesting and fun one is the issue of brand personality. And the reason it's interesting is that you're communicating, and just as we say a logo is like a face, your brand has to be a bit like a person. It has to have a personality. It has to come across and connect with people in a human way, in an emotional way, ultimately. So the way that we put it to our clients as we're talking about building brands is, think of your brand as if it was a human being. How would you describe their personality? It's how you express your brand communications, the way they come across emotionally, the way they feel. It's ultimately meant to be how your customers relate and connect to your brand. So I've given you a few examples here on the right to get your mind around personality, and it's interesting how different these are. Nike would say that their personality is active lifestyle, inspirational, exciting, and cool. Cool being a key word for Nike, I think, in terms of personality. Apple has carved its personality as non-corporate, artistic, sophisticated, creative. So again, those of you that are Apple users or just observers would probably agree that, yeah, that makes sense. kind of how their personality comes across. That wasn't by accident. That was by design. Part of their brand strategy was all about what personality people wanted to feel that those companies were delivering. Amazon sees itself as reliable, competent, sincere, and caring. So they're caring about the products and the speed with which they deliver them. Not surprisingly, Harley-Davidson wanted to be macho, rebellious. Of course, people on motorcycles are a little bit rebellious. It's an American company, so it does have an America-loving aspect to its personality and freedom-seeking. Tesla, exciting, visionary, charismatic, courageous, spirited. I'm not sure whether we're talking about Tesla or Elon Musk there. I think the two are kind of go together. You could say all those things about Elon Musk, but actually, when you look at that list on the right, like I said, you can sense that these are the way we see the personalities of those brands and those products. And again, that was not by accident, that was by design. So it's important to think in terms of personality, in terms of our meeting destinations or our meeting products. And again, don't take these too seriously. They're just examples. A personality can be surprising. It can be enthusiastic. Obviously, in Goyang's case, it's caring because you're caring about the environment and sustainability. You might even say that your personality is very clean cut. And one personality trait that tends to appear in a lot of destination brands is innovative. You'll see it. You saw it in the Kobe brand. You saw it in the Japan brand. You saw it in the Daegu Business Events District brand. In our industry, innovation is a really key core concept. So having a personality that conveys innovation, or curiosity or wonder, frontier spirit, those kinds of things are very strong personality traits for our industry. Now, we're beginning to see now that we've got a brand wheel. We're not doing this process today so that you can have a complete brand wheel. We're doing it so that you understand how to create your own brand wheel and the thought process that you would go through to do that. So what you need to do is go through a thought process about those differentiators, those benefits, why people should believe what you're saying to be true, and what your personality should be that you're conveying through your brand. I think you would agree that if you've done those four things, you've got a pretty clear communication platform. You're now able to consistently say things to your marketplace that are going to convey what you're wanting to convey as a promise and as a way of explaining what your product is all about. And ultimately, you want to test and see if the customers are believing what you're saying. So I want you to understand that once you've done that process, what you've got is a template to guide all of your communications. And your communications for branding need to be consistent. So that whoever's doing, whether it's videos or publications or trade show stand displays, websites, whatever, that they have a guide that says, here is what we're communicating about our product. And if you do any kind of communication, it needs to cover off these issues. So that brings me to the definition of brand essence. Brand essence, it does say what your brand is essentially about. What is the core? What is the heart? What are the really key fundamentals about your brand? But on another level, it's actually a litmus test for a brand manager. What I mean by that is that once you've created a brand, somebody has to manage that brand communication. Like say, you can't actually control communication because social media does that, the world does that. But you can control the proactive communicating that your agency is doing or that your destination is doing. And you want to do effective communication so that you influence that brand that's out in the marketplace that people are talking about on social media. So how do we test that our brand communication is right? You need a brand manager who's looking at your style guide and saying, yes, this communication is in keeping with our rules, our look and feel, the colors, the font sizes, what we're saying. The brand always has to, all the boxes we need to tick in terms of how it's communicated. But another key litmus test for effective brand communications is, does this communication convey our brand essence? So brand essence is a very simple concept. It's basically saying, let's take all these things in these colored boxes, the differentiation, the benefits, the reasons to believe, the personality. Let's take all of those things and see if we can boil it down to 3 or 4 words that cover off what that's all saying. So those 3 or 4 words, I'll give you an example. We did brand strategy for South Africa a few years ago. And one of the things that we decided in working with them is that part of their key branding was to convey that South Africa was easy Africa. Customers sometimes thought Africa not so experienced, not so much resources. Therefore, it might be hard to have meetings there. They may not work so well. And South Africa was very successful at meetings. So what we said to them is, you know, one of your brand essences is easy Africa. That's a brand essence, easy Africa. And it ticked off a lot of the things that we had in these colored boxes for them. Because we said that they were sophisticated, they had an experienced supplier community, they did things in traditional business ways, they were easy to work with. So that concept of easy Africa ticked a lot of the boxes. Another was they wanted to be innovative and offering new ideas. And we decided that South Africa, an essence word would be pioneering. Okay, pioneering is a powerful word. It means you're innovative, you're doing things that no one else is doing. And so, again, I don't remember the third one because it was years ago, but 2 of their brand essence words were pioneering and easy Africa. So how do they use that? Well, their brand manager looks at every communication that comes across their desk and they say, is this saying pioneering? Is this conveying a sense of pioneering? Is this saying that it's easy Africa, that everything works well here? And that brand essence is their way of making sure that every communication is in keeping with the core values that they're trying to convey. The last thing I'll say here is that once you've done all of that is when you start thinking about a positioning statement or a slogan. You want to do all of that first before you ever think about a slogan. And actually, slogans sometimes, I will say, we help do slogans. We actually came up with the slogan for Daegu Business Events District. But usually you have a creative advertising agency do that. So once you've got your brand communication strategy, this becomes the core elements of a creative brief to your agency to say, okay, now what's our slogan or positioning statement? What's our logo look like? What is our look and feel? How do we implement this in the form of different graphics and different treatments? You usually have a creative company do that. Most of you would have a creative company. Okay, with that, I just wanted to see again, if we can, I'll stop sharing for a moment. We can show the room and see if anybody has any questions they'd like to ask.
질문 있으신가요? 질문 없으신가요? 질문 질문 없으시면
I'm looking at Q&A and Fiona is the only one who's asked a question on the in the chat box. If I don't see any hands, then we'll move on. Okay, so let me take it back to the screen share again, and we're going to do another little bit of a workshop type thing. Well, here's a discussion question, and I'm going to ask Peter to look around the room as I ask this question and see who wants to speak to this question. Let's say you want to convey a strength in your brand communications, and it's essential for a customer. So example, international quality hotels. We know that our customers value, want international quality hotels. Now, we also know that in addition to using Go Young as the example, in addition to you having those, I thought I heard somebody ask a question. I'm getting feedback. Oh, I know. Got it. Okay. So in addition to you having international hotels, so do your competitors. Sorry, I'm getting feedback, but I'll keep going. So the question to you is, where and how do you work that into your brand wheel? If you have international quality hotels and so do your competitors, it's not a differentiator, is it? Yet you feel like it's important that international quality hotels is part of your brand wheel. So who has an idea of where that fits into your brand wheel? Peter, I'm going to ask you to find somebody who has a thought about that. And if nobody has a thought, I'll kind of give you my thoughts.
이 부분에 대해서는 또 발렌티어가 좀 필요한데 어느 분이 말씀을 주실까요? 저랑 눈을 안 맞으시려고. 이 부분은 교수님 어떠세요? 교수님 이건 I'm gonna pass to the Professor Huang for the you met him, the Professor Huang in Korea, right, Gary?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, anybody have any thoughts, or you want me to kind of give you my thoughts?
Yeah, I'm passed to the Professor Huang.
Okay, and I need to put it on, I need to stop sharing so I can hear the interpretation. So let me do that. Okay.
예, 그냥 우리 한국말로 할게요. 예, 이제
Yes.
국제적 호텔이라고 이제 브랜딩하기 위해서 이제 필요한 사항들을 생각해 보면. 호텔 투숙자 중에서 외국인 비율이 상당히 높다는 것도 하나 변수일 것 같고, 그 다음에 보통 호텔에서 국제회의 컨벤션 같은 걸 많이 개최하니까 우리 호텔에서 가급적이면 국제회의 컨벤션을 얼마나 많이 개최하는지, 뭐 그런 개최 횟수 또는 전체 회의 중에서 어떤 국제회의 비중 뭐 이런 것도 얘기할 수 있을 것 같고, 어쩌면 가장 쉬운 것은 국제적인 호텔 얼라이언스에 이제 같이 연계함으로써, 예를 들면 뭐 우리 인터컨 호텔이라든지 아니면 이런 것들처럼 그런 것들이 가장 좋을 텐데, 호텔은 또 로컬 호텔도 있으니까, 그래서 로컬 호텔 입장에서는 뭐 그렇게 좀 어떤 지표나 아니면 그런 성격상으로 그런 걸 좀 하면 좋을 것 같습니다. 예, 이상입니다. 예. Thank you, Gary Grimmo. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So let me say that's a good perspective on how you measure your ability to deliver. I'm going to share screen again, and then I'm going to add to what the professor just said. I'm going to go back to the brand wheel here. What the professor was talking about is how to prove that you have international quality hotels, which I think is a very good point. How you actually kind of substantiate that through data, through measurement. So that is important. I guess what I would say is think in terms of where do you communicate it. Once you've proven it, the answer is it's a reason to believe. So the professor had it right. If you're going to say that you've got international standard hotels, you don't put it under differentiation, but you don't want to lose it. So what you do is you put it under reason to believe. If you're saying that you're an easy destination, that you have familiar business practices, that you have dependable service levels, then a reason to believe those concepts is that you have international hotels. And then, as the professor says, you're able to prove that by talking about how many international meetings they've had and their experience in delivering to that audience. Okay, any questions about that? Okay, so I want to do another workshop session now. And this one's important because I said to you before that conveying benefits is really one of the most powerful parts of brand communication. And it's one that I don't think destinations think enough about and focus enough on. So what I'm going to ask everybody in the room to do, and anybody remote, is to think of an example of a benefit that your destination offers to meeting organizers. That's step one. And then, like I say, whenever you talk about differentiation or you talk about benefits, you have to have proof. You have to have evidence to support that claim. So step one is think of one benefit that you think is a really good benefit that your destination offers a meeting planner. And then step two is what evidence can you use to prove that what you're saying is true. So let's take 5 minutes, and then I'm going to ask Peter to help us again find somebody who wants to volunteer to speak back to us in terms of what your thoughts are on benefits, evidence. So take 5 minutes and think about that, if you would.
미리미리 말씀을 드려야 걱정들을 안 하시고 생각을 해보시고 이 질문은 우리 교로 직원들한테 한 명 더 상기 딴 데 갔다 왔어 또 두 개 두 사람
Gary, this is Kayla. We will have 2 persons for step 1, 2. So maybe 3 more minutes we need. So after that, I will pass the microphone to them.
Okay, that's great. 3 more minutes, you say?
Yes.
Okay.
Hello, Gary. Are you there?
Okay, we're back.
Hi, Gary. This is San from Goyang CVB.
Hey, San.
Hope you've been well. I just want to answer from a personal point of view. I guess the biggest example from our CVB is the financial benefit for the meeting organizers. And what gives gives us an edge is that we also offer a hybrid support financially and also sustainable meetings. And if should the meeting organizers use the suppliers from the regional sectors, we also provide more supplements. So those are really, I think those are really benefits from our point of view, but also for the other side. And the illustrations of these successful cases that we've been providing over the past years, we can give the meeting organizers these cases via our website or our SNS platform. So yeah, I guess that's one of the biggest benefits and also the most eager thing that they want to know.
Yep. I think that's actually very strong in the sense that your differentiation in your brand promises about sustainability. We all know that most destinations today are giving meeting support packages where they're subvention or sponsorship or funding. But you're actually tying that specifically to sustainable practices where they're using local suppliers who are part of your Green Meetings program. So that's a good one. I want to, was anybody else going to speak to this before I ask another question? Was anybody else going to speak to this?
Yes, there's one more.
Okay, before we go to that person, you're saying that your proof point is the fact that you've tied it to the Green Meetings program, right?
Yes, they are.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, success cases.
Okay, so let's hear from who else has a brand benefit and proof.
Carrie, hi, this is Bella from Goyang Convention Bureau.
Hi. Where are you?
한국어로
Where are you?
답변하겠습니다. Here.
There you are. Okay, there you are.
저 한국어로 답변하겠습니다. 방금 고양 컨벤션 뷰로의 윤산 대리님께서 소프트웨어적인 측면에 대해서 많이 말씀을 해주셨는데 저는 하드웨어적인 측면에서 말씀을 드리겠습니다. 고양시에는 일단 모두가 아시다시피 국내에서 최대 규모인 전시 컨벤션 센터 킨텍스가 위치하고 있고 그리고 저희 고양 컨벤션 뷰로와 같은 전문적인 DMO 조직이 있다 보니 재정적인 지원이나 행정적인 지원에서 저희가 행사 주최자들에게 서비스를 제공을 할 수가 있습니다. 그리고 고양 컨벤션 뷰로는 고양시 내에 위치한 다양한 마이스 기업들을 하나로 묶어서 얼라이언스를 조직화했고 그 얼라이언스들 대상으로 정례 회의를 개최함으로써 좀 더 고양시의 마이스 산업을 좀 발전시킬 수 있는 방법을 같이 강구하고 있습니다. 그런 회원사들이 있기 때문에 고양시에서 행사를 개최할 때 그들이 좀 사용할 수 있는 서플라이어들이 많다고 생각이 됩니다. 그리고 이런 거를 증빙할 수 있는 방법으로는 일단 실질적으로 말씀드릴 수 있는 게 킨텍스에서 개최된 대규모의 국제 행사가 굉장히 많고 이를 통해서 고양시에 이제 연간 방문하는 마이스 방문객이 한 600만 명 정도가 된다고 보도가 되어 있습니다. 이렇게 증빙할 수 있을 것 같습니다. 감사합니다. Thank you.
Okay, so now let me challenge you just to think about what you just said. You said two things. One is that you've got the biggest convention facility, and the other is that the Bureau is good at bringing the suppliers together to provide the services. Can you give me one or two words for each of those that express the benefit? If it's the biggest convention center, that itself is not a benefit. That's an attribute. That's a fact. It is the biggest convention center. But what's the benefit of having access to the biggest convention center? Anybody have a thought on that?
I think it's a benefit from biggest convention facility is we can provide them some flexible environment for size of the flexible environment for organizer to to fit their demands. And also organizer can more option to choose the spaceable or shape of the meeting to their what they want, the way to organizer wants. That's the benefit from
yes, absolutely, absolutely. So what that shows is that you need to really think in terms of when is it an attribute and when is it a benefit. The attribute is, or the fact of the matter is, it's the biggest. The benefit is flexibility and choice. Just like Peter said, what's the benefit of the fact that the Bureau can coalesce all the supplier and support for a meeting? What's the benefit to that?
The one thing is that alliance of the supply, we form a supply chain, and through the education we provided some. We try to raise their competitiveness and professionalism. So that means we can provide a benefit. We can provide some benefit for the organizer. First thing is we can provide a quality proven service to the organizer in and all service supply chain in my destination. That means they don't use the remote. They don't need to hire the outside the supply services, professional services, because that's a matter with the cost. So our service is quality proven and cost effective. That's the benefit to the organizer. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what you just said was, in so many words, the benefit is that it's easy, and the benefit is that you get a lot for your money.
Yep.
I mean, those are the two that I heard just then. You also mentioned quality. That's part of getting a lot for your money. So yes, again, the Bureau working with suppliers is a attribute. That's a process. The benefit is that it's easy and they get a lot for their money. So I'm only stressing these things because, like I say, benefits are the part of branding that are least well defined usually. And you really need to think about the difference between what's an attribute and what's a benefit. And you have to be really clear on what the benefits are. We're down to about 7 minutes. And just for fun, I thought I'd ask you one last question. And I'm only going to give you a minute to think about this. And that is thinking in terms of Goyang's promise, which is the most sustainable MICE destination in Korea. Give me a personality trait that relates to that. I want to know what kind of personality Goyang's brand should convey. What kind of emotional reaction do I get because of that personality? So if you're the most sustainable destination, give me a personality trait that goes along with that. I'm just going to sit here until the first person raises their hands with an idea on that personality trait.
유경, 한번 생각 발표. Gary, can you repeat your questions?
Okay, so our brand proposition is we're the most sustainable MICE destination. How do we convey that in our brand? What personality do we convey? Are we surprising? Are we fun-loving? You know, what kinds of personality trait would go with a sustainable MICE destination? I'm going to give you about 1 minute, and if I don't hear any responses, I'll just give you a thought, and then we'll conclude. I just wanted to see if anybody had any thoughts.
네네. 제가 생각할 때는 고양시가 지속 가능한 마이스 도시라는 그런 슬로건을 가지고 약간 다른 도시들에 비해서 진실성, 약간 이런 신뢰감이 준다는 그런 이미지를 가지고 있는 게 굉장히 중요할 거라고 생각합니다. 저희는 이러한 진실성에 대한 그런 성격, 특성, 사람의 특성과 비교했을 때 진실성이라는 느낌을 주기 위해서 저희가 굉장히 지속 가능성에 대한 사업을 암암리에 하고 있고, 그리고 국제적으로도 뭐 GDSI 인덱스라든지 이런 식으로 공표를 하고 이렇게 계속 꾸준한 노력을 하고 있는데, 이런 노력들이 차츰차츰 쌓여서 이게 그 사람들한테 신뢰성, 약간 우리가 지속 가능한 도시를 잘 하고 있다는 그런 믿음을 줄 수 있다고 생각합니다. 감사합니다.
Gary, she's
No, I think that's a great answer.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm going to turn off my translation again. That's a great answer, because what you're saying is that you're caring and you're trustworthy, and caring, people who care about the environment and sustainability, they're caring and they're trustworthy. So those are good examples of personalities that you can convey, or that you should try and convey into your brand. That really brings us to time. I want to give Peter a chance to kind of close the session, but just from my perspective, I hope this has been helpful to you. As I said, I think Goyang is already doing a great job of branding itself. And I think that probably everybody in this room is either with the Bureau or with the venue or with other members. But you may have, if you're not with the Bureau, you may have your own brand strategies already. But again, hopefully this helped you to do some thinking about how to further strengthen your brand communications. And again, as I said at the beginning, once you've got a brand strategy, it doesn't stop there. You need to refresh it and continue thinking about it and continue strengthening it over time. So hopefully this process has helped you in your thinking about that. I appreciate the chance to be with you today. As Peter can tell you, I've been to Goyang. I loved my visit there. He and the team took great care of me, and I had a great time. And after spending a year and a half stuck in one town because of COVID, I can't wait to get back to Goyang and enjoy my time in Korea again. So thank you very much. 감사합니다.
감사합니다. Thank you very much, Gary. So this is so awesome and a very honorable opportunity to get your insight for the destination branding. But actually, the Goyang CBB is put so many efforts to raise the branding for the internationally and domestically. But there is some result on that. But I'm always hunger for the how to systematically to raise the brandiness of Goyang City as a MICE destination. So, but this lecture is a great opportunity to get insight. And again, really thank you for sharing your precious knowledge and insight for that. And again, I'm looking forward to having you here in my city again next year. Thank you, Gary. Thank you.
Can't wait. Thank you, everybody. Good luck. Bye-bye.
Hello, Gary. Just the operation team has a request to have some group photo. So just turn on all speakers, your camera, and then just inside, in front of screen, all the participants can stand. So we can have one group photo.
Okay.
So all speakers, could you please turn on your cam, please? Emilia and Jen.